Chapter 26, Part 1. Not bad, but Urza took 2 steps forward, jumped up, put 1 foot on the head of the river crab, and flew directly over the river crab towards Rhodes. The best way to deal with this type of magician is to attack the magician himself. As a person who had hardly ever fought, Rhodes watched helplessly as Urza rushed towards him, at a loss. All he saw was that the sword in Urza's hand disappeared. Her right hand clenched into a fist, then her forehead hurt, her vision went dark, and she fell on her back. Urza landed lightly and faced Rhodes. "Come on, attack with all your strength." No. Mira held the medicine box and walked aside with a smile and waved her hands. "I can't stand up anymore." It's true. The onlookers were a little surprised by the speed of the river crab's sudden advance, but they were not surprised by the result, because even if they were replaced, they wouldn't necessarily be better than Rhodes. It's hard to judge Rhodes' strength like this. That guy Urza should be considered screwed up. For a newcomer who has just learned magic, his magic level is quite good and he is very proficient in magic, but his actual combat experience is almost zero. Makarov could see clearly that Rhodes had the potential to become the backbone of the guild. As for actual combat experience, as long as you stay in the guild, this is the only thing you will never lack. "Gray, help me." Mira opened a small bag in front of Gray. Okay. Gray made a fist with his right hand and put it on the palm of his left hand. Ice-shape ice bag. The ice blue magical light lit up, and the bag in Myra's hand was quickly filled with ice cubes. "It's over. I'm so embarrassed." Rhodes was sitting on the round stool in front of the counter, doubting life. "Rhodes, raise your head." Rhodes subconsciously followed the instructions, and something cold fell on his forehead. Rhodes' eyes looked up hard. It seemed like an ice pack, and he carefully wrapped it with a towel. Mira lowered her head behind him and met Rhodes' gaze, and said with a smile, "Don't move around. A little cold compress will reduce the swelling faster." "Thank you." Rhodes stretched out his hand to hold the ice pack. Mira saw his disappointment and said, "There is no shame in losing to Urza. After all, she is one of the strongest people in the guild. But I shouted such a long chant and summoned such a cool crab, but she knocked me down with just 1 move. She used her fists and didn't even use her sword." Mira tilted her head. "Do you want her to use a sword?" Urza is the kind of person who hardly knows how to show mercy in battle. Rhodes thought of the bloody scene. Then, "It's not necessary." Bang! Someone slammed something heavy onto the counter. Rhodes held the ice pack and turned to look over, then sat upright involuntarily. "Miss Urza?" "Just call Urza." "Then I want to apologize to you." Urza clenched her left fist and put it on her chest with a look of remorse. "I'm sorry, I was too harsh. I was so cruel to my companion who asked for a discussion. I was so mean. I was simply bullying the new members of the guild." Rhodes was startled by her serious attitude and waved his hands hurriedly. "No, not really, not to that extent. No, your tolerance will only highlight my evil deeds." Urza opened the large box she placed on the counter, and the mountains of things inside rolled out scatteredly. At a glance, there are bandages, band-aids, iodine, analgesics, anti-inflammatories, and other medical supplies inside. "I have bought all the trauma medicines in the pharmacy. Please feel free to use them." "No, I just have a bump on my head. It just hurts a little bit." "Really? What I did caused you such a headache. Please let me find a way to make up for it." Did I use the wrong common language again? Rhodes looked at Mira for help. Mira was enjoying watching the excitement and explained. "Urza's character is like this. She is a bit serious. If you don't accept those medicines, she will bandage them for you herself." Before Rhodes could speak, Urza suddenly realized, "So that's it. I can only express my apology by helping bandage it myself?" "Really not. Change up." The light flashed. Urza had finished changing her clothes, and her nurse uniform perfectly modified her figure. Oh. A wolf howl sounded in the tavern, and many men's eyes turned into heart shapes. I was used to seeing Urza in armor, but when I suddenly saw her nurse uniform, I realized that, aside from her terrifyingly high strength level, Urza's appearance is also first-rate. If it weren't for the fear of being beaten, old perverts like Wakaba and Makeo might have come close to him. "Okay, let's start bandaging." Urza picked up a roll of bandages. "I really don't no need." Rhodes' heart was beating unsatisfactorily, and it didn't take even a second to change from objecting to giving in. Seeing Urza taking off the bandage, Rhodes began to blame himself for not being firm, but soon turned into regret. "Oh, No matter how professional Urza's dress was, her technique was unprofessional. She just used a roll of bandages to have the effect of a rope. Normally, for a minor injury like Rhodes's, just apply some anti-swelling medicine to the area where the swelling occurred. If it's exaggerated, just wrap it around a few times. But somehow Urza's bandage wrapped around Rhodes' neck, tied up his arms, and then wrapped around his legs. He was just rushing to tie up prisoners. Conspiracy. Cough, cough, cough. Rhodes was choked and couldn't breathe. But some people in the tavern seemed to be more excited, looking at Rhodes with envious eyes. Stop it, Urza. Rhodes is going to die. This was actually the first time Mira saw Urza treating someone else, but she didn't expect her to be so cruel. Fortunately, she helped stop Rhodes before he rolled his eyes. Urza solemnly apologized. Sorry, my skills in helping people heal are a bit rusty, but you are very skilled at killing people. Rhodes was so moved that he burst into tears. No, you are excellent. Thanks to your treatment, my forehead doesn't hurt much anymore. Really? Urza's eyes sparkled. Rhodes nodded seriously. It's absolutely true. Thank you for your treatment. Leave the rest to my recovery. He was sure that his forehead really didn't hurt much anymore compared to his arm. Rhodes felt like he was about to break a bone. Is the bandage so strong that it can almost break a human bone? That's great. Urza probably believed it, and changed back to the armor with satisfaction, leaving the large box of trauma medicine and leaving. Rhodes rubbed his arms and looked at the ceiling and reflected on himself. The word is *X has a knife on its head. After this difficulty, his soul will grow. Mira covered her mouth and snickered. Chapter 27, Part 1. Urza seemed to have something to do and left the tavern directly. Then, Natsu resurrected with full health. Let's show off, Roddy. It's Rhodes. Rhodes corrected and then added, You saw it just now. I'm very weak. I was knocked down with one punch. The blue kitten rushed to say. It doesn't matter. When Natsu challenged Urza before, he was defeated with one punch. You talk too much, Happy. I am different from before. What I say now will definitely. Happy covered his mouth and muttered softly. I can definitely hold on to a few more punches. What did you say? Natsu stared, as if he wanted to fight Happy first. Happy flew behind Mira and stuck his head out. Love? Mira didn't say anything and just wiped the newly washed wine glass with a dry cloth. Anyway, come and fight me. That crab of yours looks pretty strong. Well, Rhodes thought for a while. Tomorrow, I need to take a rest, mainly because he didn't want to get beaten for the second or third time today, and he was still hurting now. Then it's agreed. Natsu left angrily. Happy didn't leave in a hurry. He stood on the counter and asked Rhodes, Are you a wizard who uses summoning magic? Rhodes nodded. Yes. Happy's mouth began to drool. Then can you summon fish? Rhodes silently took stock of the types of wild monsters. Probably not. At most it's a toad. Lost. Happy suddenly squatted in the corner, and the whole cat was shrouded in shadow. Is fish so important? Rhodes couldn't laugh or cry. Besides, even if he could summon fish, they would only be used for combat, so it was impossible to feed him. Happy raised his fist. Fish is the supreme delicacy. Yes. Rod didn't want to argue with the cat about whether the fish was delicious. Worm really liked Happy, who was similar in size to him, so he leaned over to nuzzle him, and the two cute creatures quickly started playing together. In the evening, Levy came to the guild and chose a mission on the bulletin board with Jet and Troy before coming to Rhodes to learn Chinese characters. Today, I will teach you two slightly more complicated Chinese characters, the character for fist and the character for pain. Rhodes borrowed Levy's light pen and wrote the two words one stroke at a time, not forgetting to explain the meaning of the two words. Why do you suddenly want to teach me these two words? I feel it. By the way, they said you had a duel with Urza today. Levy showed a look in his eyes that said, You're so brave. He couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth and pressed it down again. It felt very hard. It's hard to say. You can laugh if you want. Haha. No, I'm not laughing at you. Haha. I'm just happy to learn new words. Just because there was no malice in the laughter, Rhodes couldn't get angry. He sighed. By the way, here are Feng Yang's glasses for you. Levy shook his head. Let me lend it to you first. I still have a spare one on hand, and I have to go out to work tomorrow, so I won't need it. You've only been back for 2 or 3 days, right? Are you so diligent? Because the pay for my last job was not high, and I also spent a few days in the target city. In fact, the strength of Levy's team is average among the guilds, so the tasks they take on are often not very difficult. Correspondingly, the remuneration will not be too high. Then the reward for a task has to be divided among 3 people. Compared with other partners, they naturally have to be a little more diligent. But even this is enough to make Rhodes envious. I don't know how long it will take before I can take on some higher-paying tasks, Levy suggested. If you want to take on the mission, how about joining our lane engine team? The reward this time will be very good. Rhodes was a little moved, but immediately shook his head. No, even if I join you, my strength will only hinder you. It doesn't matter. This time I'm going to the mountains with the expedition team to solve puzzles and hunt for treasures. I rely more on my brain than force. Levy closed one eye, held up 2 fingers, and said seductively, the reward is 200,000 J. Rhodes swallowed his saliva, not because Levy's actions were too cute, but because the reward was too tempting. If 200,000 J is divided equally among 4 people, it would be 50,000 J, which is less than half a month's salary. But to go into the mountains, sure enough, let's forget it. Thank you. I don't think I'm ready yet. Is that so? Levy tilted his head and did not continue to ask why. What a pity. Rhodes smiled bitterly. The shadow of being attacked by wild beasts when he first crossed over, coupled with Urza's punch today. Before he had a certain level of strength, he would never dare to step outside the town limits of Magnolia. Makarov, who closed his eyes to rest, glanced at Rhodes. This child was also a problem child. After getting off work, Rhodes did not go home directly, but jogged along the road in front of the guild, briefly warming up and then gradually speeding up. Exercise your body, otherwise you will suffer. The president's words still lingered in his ears. Rhodes felt that just doing push-ups before going to bed was too perfunctory. It would be good to add a running project. A large box of medicine and medical supplies sent by Urza was transported back home by Rod Swiftcrab. The box might have been custom-made by Urza, with the fairy tale logo painted on it, so no one would mess with it even if it was placed at the door. Rhodes ran all the way through the residential area near the guild, jumped down the stone steps with a total height of nearly 2 meters, and arrived at another residential area. Running further along the road, you will reach the bank of a canal that passes through the city of Magnolia. From a distance, you can see the tallest building on the other side, Cartier Cathedral. The streets around the church belong to the city center, which means that the guild is actually built on the edge of the city. The reason why the rent in Rhodes is relatively cheap may be because it is a little far from the city center. After arriving at the river, Rhodes did not go to the city center anymore, but continued running along the canal until his heartbeat accelerated, he was panting, and sweat began to flow down his face. He didn't know exactly how far he had run, but he just counted the steps silently, which was more than 3,000 steps. Rhodes was surprised to find that his physical condition may be better than before time travel. He used to be in the same state as running 3 laps around the playground, but now he is obviously a little stronger. Before, the feeling that his lung tubes were about to burst would have driven him to stop, but now, Rhodes knew that he had just begun. Real exercise is not only the exercise of the body, but also the exercise of the will. Every time you feel that you can't persist, as long as you persist for a while, even running an extra 100 meters is progress. Of course, for a guy like him who is physically weak, talking about his will may make him laughable. At this distance, they have just warmed up, and you are already exercising your will? There is no way around it. With his physique at this point, Rhodes can hardly move now simply by moving his legs. He even has to rely on the power of twisting his waist and hips to move his legs and feet forward. Chapter 27, Part 2. Worm, the unfaithful one, originally ran along with his short legs for a few steps, but soon he realized that Rhodes' shoulders were acting as a weight for him. Rhodes decisively chose to send it back. He felt that it was not time for him to bear weight yet. The weather today was not so clear that only a blurry point of light could be seen when the sun set. Come on, young man. Someone in the canal was riding a boat upstream and cheered him up when he saw the sweaty Rhodes. Rhodes tried his best to lift his sore arm as a response and continued his will practice. The residents here are quite friendly. You can read more daily new novels on fictionzone.net. Both sites share the same login details, so you don't need to sign up again. Chapter 28, Part 1. A new day arrived, and Rhodes woke up to the sound of dripping rain. As soon as he got out of bed, he felt his legs were sore. Yesterday, maybe because of stimulation, or maybe because he quietly made up his mind, Rhodes gritted his teeth and ran to the ground, unable to get up. Even when he went home, he specially summoned the canyon swift crab and let it use its tentacles to roll him up on its back and carry it back. Before going to bed at night, Rhodes used a wet towel to apply a cold compress for a while, and also found some anti-swelling medicine from a large box of medicines given by Urza. Now it seems that I was lucky to have the foresight. Rhodes dragged his sore legs to the bathroom to solve his personal problems and wash up at the same time. After coming out, he decided to use some more medicine. It's broken. I forgot to collect the clothes. Rhodes went to the balcony to check. Sure enough, it rained a lot last night and all his clothes were soaked by the rain. He had no choice but to put them away first and soak them in a basin with the sweaty clothes he took off yesterday. After staring at the basin and struggling for a while, Rhodes reluctantly sat down to wash the clothes. There was no other way. Apart from these 2 sets and pajamas, he only had 1 set in the closet. Every time he opened the closet, he felt it was empty. If something unexpected happens again, Rhodes will soon face the dilemma of having no clothes to wear. When you have enough money, prepare 2 more. Rhodes washed and wrung out the clothes and hung them temporarily in the laundry room. He thought for a second about the possibility of taking it to the guild to ask Natsu to dry it, and gave up decisively. The risk was too great and he couldn't afford to gamble. After a while of fussing, Rhodes packed up and went downstairs to go to the guild. It's just that the rain shows no sign of abating, but is getting worse. Even Goodman didn't come to the stall today. Opening the door, Rod realized a new problem. He hadn't bought an umbrella yet. It's so hard for me. Rhodes made a poor voice. Hoyulu, at the critical moment, Worm took out an umbrella from the corner of the first floor. Well done, Rhodes praised, summoned the river crab, and jumped on it with an umbrella to head to the guild. Before leaving, he did not forget to leave a note to Goodman saying that he had borrowed an umbrella without permission. The canyon swift crab walked slowly on the street in accordance with Rhodes' instructions. Not only did it not hate getting wet in the rain, but it also found this environment more comfortable. Rhodes sat cross-legged on the highest point of the swift crab's back shell, tilting the umbrella in the direction of the raindrops. The streets of Magnolia became much deserted in the rain. The usual morning hawking sounds were almost gone, and only a few pedestrians passed by. They either held umbrellas or wore raincoats and rain boots and walked hurriedly through the water. Rhodes had seen many scenes like this before traveling through time, but he looked down at himself and felt that he was out of place here. Yes, he is originally an alien that does not belong to this world. Just such a little pretentiousness completely disappeared when he arrived at the entrance of the guild. Because at this moment, Lucky walked slowly from the northwest intersection, holding a wooden umbrella and a pair of wooden boots, carrying a wooden box in the other hand. Her long purple hair swayed gently, looking very friendly when seen in the rain. On the other side, Gray also walked from the other side holding a large, exquisite, and gorgeous ice crystal umbrella. The rainwater flowed down the umbrella cover, neither freezing nor melting the ice umbrella. It just added a bead curtain-like decoration to the ice umbrella. Noticing Rod and Lucky, Gray raised his hand casually. Yo! Lucky responded energetically. Good morning. Good morning. The swift crab disappeared, and Rhodes kept his feet on the ground, looking at his 2 companions who were as weird as him and couldn't help but smile. Is this also the meaning of the guild's existence? The 3 of them walked into the guild gate. Lucky looked at the floor at the door. I feel like I have to mop the floor non-stop today. Rhodes thought about what to do in places such as canteens and supermarkets on rainy days and suggested, how about laying a few more cardboards at the door? Good idea. Let's do it like this, but Lucky chose to activate magic. The shape of wood, pure love is spotless. Swish, swish, swish. Pieces of thin wooden boards appeared both inside and outside the guild gate, and the upward side was specially made to be quite rough. Shape magic is so convenient. Rhodes sighed again, and also wanted to complain about what a bad name it was. It's not enough to call the soles of your feet spotless. There wasn't much going on in the morning. Rhodes was busy for a while, and then he found Gray. Natsu's weakness? Gray blurted out. He is irritable and an impulsive, fiery idiot. But Gray thought for a while. That's true in normal times, but it's another story in battle. Many times his intuition is as sharp as a wild animal, and it would be very troublesome to fight him seriously. Although he usually sounds like an idiot and doesn't get along in terms of personality and magic, but if Gray really evaluates Natsu seriously, he will definitely give a high evaluation. Unless in front of Natsu. That's it. I'm definitely going to get beaten again today. Rhodes worried. Don't you have any practical, obvious, immediate weaknesses? By the way, Natsu has asked you to duel today. Gray slapped his palms. He was interested in helping others beat Natsu. If there is an obvious weakness, there is one. Gray said, That guy has no means of transportation. You just need to build a car under his feet and you will win. Good idea, but I don't know styling magic. I'll teach you now. Now. That's right, right now. Gray raised his hand excitedly and his shirt disappeared. Do it with me? Rhodes glanced at Gray's bare upper body and said, sorry to bother you, but I may not be suitable for learning ice modeling. In order to defeat Natsu, he became a pervert. Rhodes didn't think it was worth it. Gray just put his right fist against the palm of his left hand and looked at Rhodes running away with confusion. I haven't started teaching yet. While Natsu didn't come, Rhodes decided to find a quiet place to meditate for a while. Rod. Lucky called to him and handed him the wooden box he came with. Inside is the magazine you want. Rhodes' hand sank, and more than 50 magazines were heavy. Thank you. Why does this box have no mouth? Because it was raining and I was worried about getting wet, I didn't open the door. Lucky said, when you get back to a place where you can relax, just give the box a hard blow. I see. You are so thoughtful. Did she mean to go home and smash it open? It took Rhodes a while to understand what she meant, as he didn't know common language well. Also, it turns out that this box was made by her before she went out. The wood modeling magic is really suitable for life. Rhodes put away the box, ran to the door of the library, sat down cross-legged, closed his eyes and meditated. Feeling the magic power growing bit by bit, Rhodes felt the joy of harvest. Chapter 28, Part 2. I don't know when the next summon will come. How can I have some attack power then? Chapter 29, Part 1. Let's have a showdown, Rhodes. Natsu was very direct. When he arrived, he didn't even say a normal hello and went straight to the topic. Rhodes said helplessly, at least wait until the rain stops? Natsu asked back, didn't it stop already? Rhodes looked outside the door. The sun shone through the gaps between the dark clouds, as if a few rays of gold were falling from the sky. Then there was more and more light. The dark clouds quickly dissipated, and the sky turned blue. Rhodes was shocked. Are you on Okatakaba? Who is that? Is it strong? To a certain extent. Rhodes stopped pushing the envelope. Then let's do it. Natsu jumped into the backyard immediately and stepped on the mud. Rhodes suddenly didn't want to go. After thinking for a while, he decided to turn around and ask for help. Rachi? Leave it to me. Lucky activated the magic. The shape of wood, pure love, is spotless. A circular wooden floor with a diameter of 10 meters appeared in the backyard, like a ring. Several people around Lucky complained about the name she chose, but Lucky was complacent. Natsu jumped up and stamped his feet, and said happily, oh, this is good, it's decided. If it falls out of range, you lose. It's a loss if you don't fall to the ground. Rhodes would rather fall than get covered in mud. Natsu had no objection. The onlookers were already in place, and the president also opened the market. Rhodes didn't even know when the old man showed up. Then, Natsu versus Rhodes. Let's begin. Rhodes held the pendant. I am the person who connects the two worlds. Canyon swift crab. Natsu, like Urza, adhered to martial ethics and did not engage in sneak attacks. But Rhodes felt awkward, and the chant had to be shortened as soon as possible. When the canyon swift crab appeared, Natsu finally couldn't hold it any longer. He clashed his fists with flames coming out of his fists and rushed out with a lunge. Like a fire dragon waving its front paws and pounces forward. Fire Dragon's Iron Fist. This fist was not aimed at Rhodes, but aimed at River Crab. The scorching flaming fist magnified in Rhodes' vision, causing him to subconsciously raise his hands to cover his face. But he immediately realized that it was Crab's vision. In a hurry, he didn't know what command to give. But the river crab had already begun to act according to instinct and raised a short pincer. Natsu's fist hit the green crab's claws, and the scorching flames rushed into the crab's eyes. The huge force caused the crab's 6 legs to pierce the wooden board under its feet and slide back more than 2 meters. Splinters of wood mixed with the soil below and flew up. Rhodes was even hit, and half of his body lay on the back of the river crab. If there weren't some protrusions on the crab shell that you could grab onto, he might have been pushed away. Ugh. Rhodes felt like vomiting after being hit in the stomach. He felt that if he was hit directly by this punch, he might die. Seeing Rhodes' reaction, the president decided to give this kid with no combat experience a temporary lesson. Magic power is not only something that can be used to activate magic, but can also be used for defense. Even if you don't understand defensive magic, you can still play a little protective role, although the efficiency is lower. Rhodes nodded and understood. Being an internal power user is just a much lower cost-effectiveness than using defensive magic. Kenyon Swift Crab charge. However, his order was given a little late. After the river crab was attacked, it had already started to run away according to instinct. Even running out of illusory light and shadow in the game, it is probably a small acceleration skill that comes with the river crab. This act of betraying his teammates brought Rhodes directly face-to-face with Naz, with a distance of only 3 meters. After hearing Rhodes' order, he turned back and accelerated over again. So fast, Natsu had already planned to rush forward and deliver a friendly fist, as usual in fights, the kind without fire on the fist. But the speed of the river crab is unexpectedly fast, and the feeling of facing it head-on is indeed different from watching it yesterday. That's what makes it interesting. Natsu laughed instead, opened his hands, and directly grasped the tips of the 2 large crab claws. Laugh. Natsu was pushed backwards by the river crab, and his leather sandals and wooden board magic made an unpleasant sound. However, after retreating less than a meter, Natsu had already stood firmly, grinning at the river crab. Got you? Natsu's whole body burst into flames, and his head hit the river crab directly. The horn of the fire dragon's sword, Zhi, there was only a bang sound, and the river crab was knocked over by the headbutt. The flames spread to the whole body, and he let out a squeaking scream. After a few struggles, the river crab's body gradually became transparent and finally disappeared completely. Oops. Natsu covered his head with both hands and rubbed his hair in frustration. You went too far. I'm sorry. Natsu clasped his hands together and rushed to Rhodes to apologize frantically. I didn't want to kill it. I'm sorry. Rhodes didn't panic. It's okay. It's not dead. Really? Naz still maintained his folded posture and looked up at Rhodes. It's really not dead. You can treat it as being forcibly repatriated and just recover from its injuries. Rhodes could vaguely feel a body of water now. The river crab was hiding under the water, and a pair of tentacles were exposed on the water. According to the game, it can be regarded as waiting for reorganization. However, the disappearance of the river crab this time made Rhodes think that the existence of this river crab might be different from the Poro. So that's it. Natsu jumped back a long distance. Then come again. If there are any other monsters, let them all out. Ha ha ha. This guy must be stubborn. His mood adjustment is too fast. It fits the character of the male protagonist of a hot-blooded comic. Rhodes understood a little more about Natsu's character, but then continued to summon. He looked at Porovom on the sidelines. Worm accidentally hid behind Happy. Rhodes sighed. He really couldn't count on it. He clenched his fist and looked at Natsu. Just do it like this. I agreed to fight Natsu just to gain some combat experience. It would be pointless to just admit defeat for fear of getting beaten. Natsu also raised his fist and showed a hearty smile to Rhodes. But when he recalled it afterwards, Rhodes always felt that Naz smiled like a devil. MD is too harsh. Hiss. It hurts. Mira carefully used a cotton ball with tweezers to apply medicine to Rod's swollen cheek. Rhodes sat on the chair, clutching the back of the chair with both hands and grinning in pain. He didn't even care about the close distance, which he was a little concerned about at first. Just bear with it a little longer, and you'll be fine soon. Mira changed a cotton ball and dipped it in the potion again. Don't the defense skills the president taught you work? It works, but I didn't learn it all at once. And, hiss. Who knew he would slap me in the face when he came up? Mira smiled and said, Natsu usually fights like this? Okay, turn around. By the way, do you still need to do this kind of training in the future? Chapter 29, Part 2. Rhodes turned around and pulled down his collar, revealing the bruises on his back shoulders. Recalling the tragic experience just now, he nodded with a sad face. The more this happens, the more you have to keep looking for someone to fight with. It's better to be beaten in the guild than to be beaten to death when you go out. Hiss. Chapter 30, Part 1. I can just take care of other places by myself. After taking care of the areas that were inconvenient for him to apply medicine, Rhodes was too embarrassed to keep asking Mira for help. Then I'll go out first. Mira put down the medicine bottle and tweezers. You can rest a little longer. Well, thank you. After watching Mira leave, Rhodes took off his t-shirt and applied medicine to the bruises in front of him little by little. By the way, the battle with Natsu was also reviewed. After today's fight, in addition to leaving Rhodes with a lot of pain, it also gave him a lot of gains. First of all, he has become a person who has fought seriously. This is very important. At least he will no longer be timid when he hears about a fight. Then, he also learned some little skills of using magic power to defend. Although with his current magic power, it would be a bit difficult to defend against Natsu's fists, but if he was fighting an ordinary person, he could basically withstand the opponent's fists and kicks. When fighting Natsu, Rhodes' punches and kicks basically imitated Natsu's movements. Natsu punched him in the face, and he punched him in the face. Natsu turned sideways and elbowed his stomach, and he turned sideways and elbowed his stomach. Of course, except for the 2 punches, Natsu didn't use magic at all. If you think about it carefully, during the hand-to-hand combat, it seems that he was deliberately left open to attack, and he didn't do much dodge or defensive movements. So much so that if we just talk about the number of hits and the number of beatings received, there should be not much difference between the two. But in the end, Rhodes was lying on the ground in pain and could hardly get up. Natsu, as if nothing was wrong, patted the dust off his body and carried Rhodes to the infirmary. Thinking about it this way, it feels like Natsu is specially being my sparring partner. Rhodes looked at the injuries on his body and smiled helplessly. You have to thank others after being beaten. What's this? But when he beat the river crab, it was probably out of pure curiosity and itchy hands. By the way, the strange feeling when the river crab disappears needs to be studied carefully. After resting for a while in the infirmary, Rhodes got up and went to the front to help. In addition to Mira and Lucky, there is also a girl helping in the tavern. She looks like a tomboy from the front with her short black hair, but in fact she has a long braid on the back of her head. She was wearing a short red cheongsam and black knee-high socks with the guild's coat of arms printed on the top of the socks. Rhodes recognized her name as Sally, and the magic she used was dress-up magic, but she was not as proficient as Urza. She could only change weapons during battle. It is said that what she is best at using is a pair of steel claws on her wrists. I guess they are of the melee type, and they are quite brutal. Sally's shift schedule is much less than Rod's. Working as a waitress is really just a part-time job. Her main source of income is teaming up with 3 other friends to complete tasks. In addition to Sally, there is another girl named Izzy, whose situation is similar to hers, but Rhodes has only seen her once when she couldn't speak, so she is not familiar with her. Rod? I heard everyone said that you had a fight with Natsu today. Sally was holding the plate in one hand, and with a flash of steel claw on the other hand, she asked eagerly, How about it? Do you want to come and have a fight with me? Obviously, this is also a militant. Rhodes refused decisively. Spare me. My whole body hurts now. Sally, my wine. Someone saw Sally stopping to chat and couldn't help but urge her. I'm so annoyed. Isn't this a gift? Well, this guy has a bad temper. It's better not to provoke him if you can. Although he may not be that strong, it shouldn't be a problem to defeat Rhodes now. Rhodes looked around and finally went to the counter to wait. At this time, Gray was leaning on the counter, with a task list on the table, waiting for Mira to register. Hey, that guy Natsu. Isn't his fist heavy enough? Rhodes smiled bitterly and touched his face. The swollen position. Why didn't you see anyone else? I just took over the task and went to work with Happy. Gray picked up the power of attorney that Mira returned to him and shook it at Rhodes. I'm going to work too, see you later. Rhodes nodded. Well, be careful on the road. Gray had just taken a few steps when Mira shouted to him. Gray, clothes? Gray lowered his head and found that he was only left with a pair of big pants. When, smiling as she watched Gray retrieve his shirt and trousers, Mira poured a glass of water for Rhodes. Are you concerned about Natsu? Yeah, after all, I'm under his care a little bit. Rhodes held the water glass and didn't drink. He just stared at the gently swaying water inside. It's a bit awkward. Naturally, you will feel uncomfortable after being beaten, but you should be grateful to the other party for holding hands and teaching him fighting skills intentionally or unintentionally. And Natsu should look a little younger than himself, which is a bit awkward. Rhodes found that he was a little entangled and liked to think about things. It was difficult for him to be as straightforward as everyone else. From this point, it will divergence into thinking about whether you will be unsociable and excluded. Then I would despise myself again, thinking about how old I am, whether I have these things or not. And when others are so sincere, I always feel sorry for them when I think about these nonsense. Mira watched Rhodes' expression change and could only guess that he was unwilling to lose. I've only learned magic for a few days, and it's already amazing to be able to reach such a level. If I keep going like this, I might be able to do some ordinary work next month. That's right. Let's practice hard first. Who can say for sure what will happen in the future? Maybe it's just the first time he's not used to fighting. Rhodes looked at the people laughing and joking in the tavern. Who should I talk to next time? A separate boy, Marcus, who talked a lot in the morning, came into view. Go request it and give it a try. It was another fulfilling day of working, practicing, and tasting the exquisite cooking skills of the guild chefs. After returning home, Rhodes did what Lucky said and smashed the wooden box without a mouth before taking out the magazine inside. So Shala is a weekly, and what Lucky gave to Rhodes was 1 year, plus some supplements and special issues, about 60 volumes. 60 magazines were piled neatly on the table, which was more than a dozen thick. It's a pity that such a perfect box. Do you want it to be your nest? Rhodes showed Worm the wooden box with one side smashed open. The box is not big, and it can hold just one poro. However, Worm didn't like this kind of nest, so he shook his head and retreated to the bottom of the bed. Don't forget it. I haven't cleaned the bottom of the bed carefully yet. Don't let it get covered in dust. Rhodes threw the broken wooden box next to the fireplace and kept it as firewood, admiring the convenience of modeling magic again. He took out Fengyong's glasses and quickly browsed the contents of the magazine. The Ruler of Ghosts. This is one of the two most famous magician guilds in the Kingdom of Fiori. The other is naturally Fairy Tail. Chapter 30, Part 2. However, Fairy Tail has been dormant for a long time, and its reputation has only grown in recent years. Rhodes read this message from a weekly issue that focused on ghosts. If we look at the scale and number of people alone, Ghost is much larger than Fairy Tail, because in addition to the main headquarters, Ghost has more than 24 branches with many members. That's the name Ghost. It sounds so much like the Dark Guild. After seeing several of Ghost's signature magicians and some of the accidents they caused, Rhodes was able to dispel his doubts. This guild is no worse than Fairy Tail in terms of disorder. Chapter 31, Part 1. After quickly flipping through 2 magazines, Rhodes took off his glasses and prepared to start today's physical training. I told you not to get under the bed. Rod held up the back of Worm's neck, and Worm's 4 legs hung down naturally. Part of his tongue was exposed, and his horns drooped down, looking pitiful like, please don't scold me. It's just right. Rhodes put down Worm and went to the laundry room to get a basin of water and a rag. Worm sat obediently on the ground and waited for Rhodes to wipe him. However, Rhodes threw the rag to it. Anyway, you are all dirty. Please help me wipe it clean under the bed. It is inconvenient for me to do it. Worm? If I finish wiping before I come back, I'll buy you cookies tomorrow. See you later. Worm hesitantly held up the rag with his little paws. Rod closed the door with a click and ran downstairs. The route was slightly changed from yesterday. Because he already knew where his limit was, Rhodes slightly controlled the return position and estimated that he would be able to lie down tiredly after running home. When you first start running, you can also think about your future training plan and wonder whether you should get a sandbag to hit at home. In the second half of the race, all that was left was the thought of one more step, one more step. This kind of training is effective. At least Rhodes is becoming more and more skilled in applying cold compresses and trauma medicine to himself. When he dragged his legs like lead and climbed the handrail, he saw a little gray dog squatting at the door. You really wiped it. It deserves encouragement. Rhodes moved to the bedside and threw himself on the bed. His first thought was, it's over. I'm covered in stinky sweat, and the sheets need to be changed. Worm stuck out his tongue and watched Rhodes think for a while, then jumped on the chair, then jumped on the table, and jumped on the bed with the bottle of potion that Rhodes used yesterday. Thank you. Rhodes struggled to hold himself up, took the medicine bottle, and immediately saw the gray mark Worm left on the sheets. Worm felt guilty when he saw him, so he took a few steps back and jumped out of bed, leaving a few more footprints. Okay, let me take you to take a bath first. The dawn of summer always comes very early, and it's already bright when Rhodes opens his eyes. Worm, who was sleeping next to the pillow, disappeared as before. Rhodes didn't know yet whether it was because the supply of magic power was interrupted after he fell asleep, or because there was a time limit for the summons to stay. He got out of bed, put on his slippers and stretched out. The soreness in his legs and the obvious increase in magic power in his body made him feel very at ease. Maybe it's because the base is too small, and you can easily see results as long as you work hard. Ding. MP limit plus 10. Rod voices his own silent gold finger. The increase in magic power is a happy event, but what makes him even more happy is what he discovered when he tried to feel the condition of the crab through the necklace after meditating last night. Rhodes not only saw the river crab diving into the water, but also saw an entire river, and another river crab. The other party was walking leisurely around the lower reaches of the river, as if on patrol. Rhodes felt that he could summon this river crab at any time if he wanted. After the injured river crab recovers, he should be able to summon 2 at the same time. He felt his own magic power. Okay, He still has to practice for a few more days. Rhodes washed up and went out, greeted Goodman as usual, and summoned Worm. I didn't forget to buy a pack of biscuits for Worm on the way. Funds are reduced by 500J. Seeing Worm happily swallowing a biscuit with just one roll of his tongue, Rhodes began to consider a feeding plan. Poros in the game need to eat poro delicacies if they want to grow up. Although they look like cookies, what ingredients are they made of? Do you want to find more ingredients and let Worm identify them yourself? That's a way. While thinking about it, the guild has arrived. Rhodes did some cleaning work as usual, and then went to the backyard together until Marcus, whom he had made an appointment with yesterday, arrived. He has already inquired about Marcus's situation. He is considered a good player in defense when using sand magic, but not as good in offense. Comprehensive strength. Mira tactfully gave a comment that it's not very impressive compared to Urza, which was considered to save Marcus some face. Rhodes tasted it carefully and felt that what she wanted to say might be that among the entire guild, its strength was not outstanding. Then, Rhodes lost again. Although Marcus couldn't bring down the canyon swift crab as cleanly as Natsu, he could still block the crab's advance. When the crab hit the sand wall with a thud, several ropes of sand entangled the crab's legs, restricting its movement. It seems that it can really only be used as a functional wild monster. Rhodes completely understood the position of the river crab. Marcus walked around the river crab and walked towards Rhodes. Do you want to continue fighting? Rhodes took a stance. Fight. You can't beat someone in a fight. The experience of just 2 fights is nothing compared to someone fighting every 3 or 5 times. Even Marcus, who is not outstanding in strength, can easily deal with Rhodes. It's just that Marcus was more particular about pointing to the point, so he didn't leave any bruises or other scars on Rhodes. In Marcus' words, I don't want a friend I just met to not want to talk to me the next day. For him, who likes to talk to people, the audience is very important. Rhodes thought that since Marcus liked it, he should chat with him about $10 before going to work. It just so happened that Rhodes also needed to communicate with others, whether it was to obtain more information or to correct his common language. How to quickly increase magic power. There is no such thing. Of course, magic power must be increased through hard work. Oh, by the way, as you age, your magic power will naturally increase. For example, I am 16 years old now. In 7 or 8 years, I will become very strong. Hey, how old are you, Rod? Almost 19 years old. Rhodes was stunned. How should he calculate his age, birthday, etc. in the future? You are 18 years old, so you are the same age as Urza, Mira, Biska, and Alzak. Marcus thought for a while, then patted Rhodes on the shoulder comfortingly. Let's work harder. He was not comforted at all. Speaking of which, Biska has only been studying magic for a short time, and now she can handle it on her own, so you don't have to worry at all. Just work hard. As Marcus spoke, Rhodes' eyes fell on the green-haired girl chatting with Urza. That was Biska. Although she didn't say hello formally, Lucky introduced her to Rhodes. Biska has a good relationship with Urza, and she can also use dressing magic, but what she wears is various firearms. In addition, there is also enthusiastic science popularization, gossip, from Mira. Biska learned the dress-up magic because she admired Urza, and she also liked Alzak, who was good at gun magic. According to Myra's observation, Arzak would occasionally look at Biska's back in a daze, and she felt that the two people would be together sooner or later. Alzak. Chapter 31, Part 2. Rhodes searched for it, and sure enough, he found a handsome guy dressed like a cowboy not far from Biska. Rhodes discovered that his guild not only had a lot of weirdos, but also a lot of handsome guys and beauties. Chapter 32, Part 1. Many times, Rhodes was most afraid of suddenly meeting unfamiliar people's eyes. Because after the eyes meet, if you look away directly, it seems impolite, and if you keep staring, it seems to be provoking. In this case, Rhodes would be at a loss, especially when the other person puts down his glass and walks towards him after looking at each other for a few seconds. Fortunately, the talkative Marcus is here. Arzak, you are here. I happen to be talking about you just now. Speaking of me? Yes, this is Rhodes. Do you know him? Arzak nodded. The one that destroyed an entire forest? Marcus clapped his hands. That's right. Rhodes slapped the table. Wrong. The two of them looked at him in confusion, as if they were asking why there was such a big reaction. Rhodes raised his hand. Sorry, it was unintentional. The two of them were even more confused. Does such a trivial matter as slamming the table need to be explained? Rhodes didn't even know what to say. He took a deep breath, formally met Arzak, and then clarified the rumors about himself. He is just an unqualified wizard who has just learned magic for a few days. How can he destroy a forest? The president told me that the forest became like that because of the wild beasts. There are rumors about strange birds, giant frogs, wolves, and flying dragons. Just listen to them. It really looks like I did it myself. Rhodes fell into thought. Something is wrong. Rhodes thought about it carefully. When he heard about this, he didn't seem to know that he could summon wild monsters. After knowing that I could summon wild monsters, I didn't think about it in detail. Now these two things are connected. Could it be that after being attacked by that bear, the life and death crisis caused the magic to go out of control, calling out all the wild monsters, big and small? The more I think about it, the more guilty I feel. If I really did it, then how much would I have to pay for destroying a large forest? The more Rhodes thought about it, the more guilty he felt. The other two people had already brought the topic elsewhere. Marcus was complaining that he had been bored recently and wanted to hold an event or something so that he, the queen host, could be useful. How about holding a shooting competition? Alzak patted the pistol on his waist. Stop joking. Who can win the shooting competition between you and Biska? Alzak suddenly panicked. Don't talk nonsense. What's Biska? As expected, the young man had something going on. Listening to Alzak's nonsensical answers, Rhodes felt a little bit of the joy of gossip. As the three of them chatted, Alzak became Rhodes' next opponent. In the next few days, Rhodes went through one actual training session after another, sometimes one session a day, sometimes 2 or 3 sessions a day. Some of the opponents he found himself, and some were brought in by Marcus, who took away the chairman's hosting and refereeing tasks for fun. Kana, who returned from a mission, also took over the president's gambling business. The backyard of the guild was unusually lively for a while, and Rhodes also built walls several times with his opponents. However, as the battles became more frequent, the novelty gradually faded away, and the number of onlookers gradually decreased, mainly because there is really no suspense in the ending. Luo's current record is 19 games and 19 losses. Today was another day of success. Rhodes sat on a round stool and leaned on the counter, listlessly waiting for the noon working time. Worm went to the tavern to eat and drink for a while, then ran back and hugged Rod's calf to try to comfort him. Mira brought a small plate of broad beans and placed it on the counter, calling for Worm to come up for snacks. Then, while combing the white hair on Worm's back, he said, "Didn't we almost make a profit of dashi today? Lida's is too nice to hit me, and it's hard for me to punch him." Rhodes has always been very grateful to Lida's. It was his painting magic that helped him quickly understand the current situation and eliminate a lot of uneasy feelings. But painting magic is too cheating, isn't it? Being able to draw anything makes me seem stupid with my summoning magic. Lida's drew the canyon swift crab today, and then used the crab to attack the crab. At the same time, he still had enough energy to draw the poro to play bullfighting with Worm. Although the river crabs he drew were not very strong and would fall apart after 1 or 2 bumps, he was able to draw many of them one after another. The 2 genuine river crabs happily returned to the canyon river under the attack of a large number of pirated river crabs, leaving only Rhodes staring. He thought he might be suffering from underfire phobia. Mira smiled and said, "There are limits to what can be created by painting magic, and almost every action requires the artist's distracted control. But the creatures summoned by summoning magic can act independently as long as they are given a certain target, right? This is your advantage. To a certain extent, Lida's weakness is the same as yours, and attacking the magician himself is the most effective method. And because I have to be distracted by controlling the portrait, even if I am good at fighting, I will not be able to use my full strength. So once you have more powerful helpers, or your fighting skills improve a little more, you will soon surpass Lida's." Rhodes, like many of his companions in the guild, only sees him failing and failing these days. But Mira took Rhodes' progress seriously. The most intuitive manifestation was that she hadn't applied medicine to Rhodes for several days. Even when he fought against Gray and had a very fierce close combat, he no longer suffered the same serious bruises as when he faced Natsu. Although it is not ruled out that Gray has more hands than Natsu, Mira can see that Rhodes's parry and attack are much smoother than before, and his magic power should have increased a lot. Moreover, the little skills of using magical power to defend are also becoming more and more handy. Rhodes was comforted. He found that although Mira said she couldn't fight, she knew a lot more than him. The way he talked so eloquently sounded like he was saying that professional players are good at games. Of course, Rod is the keyboard warrior and Mira is Wang Yuya. I already have an idea of the next summon target. I just want to complain. You still have to be a little emotional when you kneel down for 10 consecutive games, let alone a fight. Fortunately, the friendly matches these days were not in vain, and neither was the sweat. When Rhodes was competing with Litas today on summoning river crabs, he had already felt that the black mist somewhere in the Summoner's Canyon disappeared, revealing a mountain kernel. The ground of the mountain col is flat, the rock walls are smooth, and there are patches of moss growing in the corners, giving it a cold and damp feeling. And in this small mountain col, two stones, one large and one small, stood quietly. Rhodes, who is familiar with this game, naturally knows what this is. Ancient stone beetles, commonly known as stone monsters, look at their appearance and know that they are durable. In fact, their attack power is pretty good among all kinds of ordinary wild monsters. Moreover, if an ancient stone beetle is broken, it will turn into a smaller stone beetle, and if it is broken again, it will turn into an even smaller mini stone beetle. Chapter 32, Part 2. It's just that in today's competition with Litas, Rhodes didn't dare to try summoning. He only knows their information in the game, but doesn't know the specific situation. He has to ask the president for help first. It would be bad if someone disobeys the command and hurts his companions. In this guild where recklessness prevailed, Rhodes firmly warned himself not to cause big trouble for everyone. Chapter 33, Part 1. Rhodes punched out, but the opponent quickly dodged and raised his leg to deliver an upper side kick. Rhodes raised his arms to block it steadily, and the opponent's figure had disappeared. Hearing a faint sound behind him, Rhodes quickly turned sideways, but his shoulder was rubbed. His upper body swayed slightly, and he immediately stood up, turned around, and punched backwards. Bang! The punch hit the right spot, and the opponent's left arm was horizontal and his right arm was vertical, crossing into a cross to block the blow. This punch is so hard. You are much stronger than they say. The other party took half a step back, simply somersaulted 2 more times to regain distance, and rubbed his forearms. Sarusik, nicknamed Jet, wears a purple shirt, a wide-brimmed hat about a foot high, loose breeches, and a pair of long boots for running. He is a member of Levy's lane engine team. The 3 of them have not gone out to work since returning from the last mission. They laugh and play with their companions in the guild every day. I don't know if it was because he was interested in the rumor that Rhodes was going to fight everyone in the guild, or because Levy often accompanied Rhodes to learn foreign languages recently, which made him a little unhappy. Anyway, Jet took the initiative to request to be on the reservation list to play against Rhodes, as did Troy on the same team. The two have been fighting with fists and kicks for several minutes. This is the first opponent that Rhodes has encountered so far who is evenly matched in terms of fists and kicks. He doesn't know whether he has become stronger or his opponent has become weaker. Anyway, he didn't suffer a loss today. You are also very powerful. Your movements are so agile. It's just that the strength is just a little bit. I can't say this. Rhodes silently warned himself not to be too proud. Jet, if you can't win, just admit defeat and let me do it. Troy loudly cheered for Jet. Levy also thinks I can win. Jet turned around and shouted, "Shut up, Troy. Levy obviously supports me more." Levy sighed and whispered, "I never said that, but Rhodes has improved so fast and is already on par with Jeter." After yelling at his best friend, Jet lowered the brim of his hat, smiled at Rhodes, and then assumed a starting posture. "Next, I want you to see my magic. I'm the fastest man in the guild. That's why I'm called Jet. Magic foot." Jet's whole body flew out like an arrow. Just when Rhodes saw him start, there was already a sound of wind in his ears. It was the sound of wind caused by Jet running from beside him. Jet did not rush to attack, but ran in a circle around Rhodes. There were gusts of wind and footsteps, making it difficult for Rhodes to catch Jet's figure. Based on his rough judgment, He Crab's sprinting speed should be about the same as Jet's. However, He Crab can sprint and stop suddenly, but it cannot turn and run in such a small circle as flexibly as Jet's. In this situation, Rhodes couldn't help but think of the scene where Lee was running around Gaara in the studio next door. He really wanted to stretch his legs to get into trouble. However, before Rhodes could make any move, Jet had already flashed back to his original position. He pressed his legs from left to right and moved his neck. "The warm-up is over. I remember you have a crab that runs very fast, right? Why don't you call it out?" "No, it's not the canyon swift crab that's going to appear today." Rhodes held the pendant, with magic power surging in his body. "I am the one who connects the 2 worlds. You, the creature of Summoner's Canyon, answer my call and pass through the door." Ancient stone beetle. Beetle? Troy, who was about to continue to encourage Jet, shuddered. "You're not going to summon a swarm of bugs, are you? That would be too scary." If they were really a bunch of bugs, he even wanted to hide behind Levy. The pendant in Rhodes' hand emitted blue light, and the ground beneath his feet shook slightly, and then 2 stone beetles broke out of the ground and stood in front of him. The big one is more than 2 meters tall, with 4 thick legs like stone pillars, giant pincer-like mouthparts in front of it, and a crack like a stone seam on its back. The small one is almost the same as the big one, but is only 1.56 meters tall. When the 2 stone beetles are motionless, they look like 2 stones, one large and one small. Once they move, the cracks on their backs flash with blue light. Kaka. The stone beetle's mouthparts opened and closed gently, waiting for the owner to give instructions. Rhodes once again confirmed the magic power consumption in his body. It was the same as when he summoned the president for the first time yesterday. It was probably the magic power used to summon 3 canyon swift crabs. However, maybe because I am more proficient than yesterday, I have also reduced the consumption a little, about the amount of 1 poro, which is better than nothing. Is this a beetle? Troy was no longer afraid of them, but he soon became afraid of another kind. Looks very strong. Jeter felt the pressure when facing these 2 big guys head-on. The main reason is that the stone-like appearance looks very hard at first glance. Jet is not a magician known for his destructive power. In this case, we can only bypass them and attack you directly. Jet flicked his feet and rushed out instantly. Rhodes was also very decisive. He bent down and turned around, hiding inside the ancient stone beetle's hind legs. Secret technique. The king of Chin's column encirclement. The ancient stone beetle's stone pillar-like thick legs and hard abdomen gave Rhodes a good sense of security. It's just a bit shorter, but it's still an advantage at this moment. If Jet wants to get in and hit him, he has to bend down, and his speed will inevitably be affected. Sure enough, Jet came to a sudden stop after bypassing the stone beetle. Hey, you are too lazy to do this. Rhodes disagreed. Defensive summons, that's what they are used for. Urza didn't take off her armor when she hit me. Jet wants to ask, does it affect the outcome whether Urza wears armor or not? But after thinking about it, I couldn't help but let Rhodes defend himself. Okay, then try this trick, Falcon Tianxiang. Jet's figure drew a beautiful arc in the yard, raised his leg and kicked the ancient stone beetle's leg hard. Rhodes could feel the pillar he was leaning on shaking, and the ancient stone beetle's head raised slightly, as if it was in pain. Stone beetle, Rhodes shouted, and the smaller stone beetle next to him turned around and bumped towards Jet. It's so hard, but it's effective. Jet dodges quickly, distances himself a bit, and then sprints again. Super high-speed impact. Isn't this an iron mountain? Rhodes saw Jet's posture secretly and hurriedly hid from the front. Bang! Jet's shoulder hit the ancient stone beetle's hind legs, causing the ancient stone beetle to stagger and almost fall. Before the stone beetle could attack, Jet immediately ran away again. It's so nerve-wracking, you can't even defeat it like this. Rhodes poked his head out through the cover of the ancient stone beetle. If you stop, I will attack you. Jeter smiled confidently. That kind of bulky guy can't keep up with my speed. To deal with high-speed people, of course you need to use some tactics. Rhodes held the pendant and read a brief chant, and the canyon swift crab appeared. Chapter 33, Part 2. You can actually summon 2 kinds of monsters at the same time. Levy knows something about celestial spirit magic. Celestial spirit magicians who can open 2 doors at the same time are quite rare. Summoning magic similar to celestial spirit magic like Rhodes should be equally difficult. What's more, if you include the Poro next to him, Rhodes is now maintaining 3 doors at the same time. Even if Poro is an ornamental creature, it can no longer be described as awesome. You can read more daily new novels on fictionzone.net. Both sites share the same login details, so you don't need to sign up again. Chapter 34, Part 1. Use those stone monsters for defense, and then use this monster crab to chase me? Jet didn't notice so many details, but he was still confident. If you can do it, let's give it a try. It's not that simple. Rhodes patted the leg of the large stone beetle. Ancient stone beetle. Crack. Click. Rhodes gave an order, and the gap on the ancient stone beetle's back shone with blue light and split into 2 halves. When it landed, it had turned into 2 stone beetles. This is different from the game. Stone beetles can actively split. 3 almost identical stone beetles lined up in front of Rhodes, and the river crab was in front of them, eyeing Jet covetously. Will it split? If it's 5 against 1, Jet was stunned. From his angle, he could only see Rhodes' head. No matter how many there are, the speed will not get faster. I will never lose my speed. Don't worry, I can't last long in this state. Rhodes jumped on the back of a stone beetle and felt the speed of his magic power consumption. If I can't catch you within 5 minutes, I lose. Rhodes pointed forward. Canyon swift crab, charge. The swift crab rushed forward straight away, dragging out the afterimages. Then, Rhodes took a deep breath. Stone beetle, escape. The 3 stone beetles raised their front legs, arched their heads downwards, and burrowed into the ground simultaneously with their giant, pincer-like mouthparts. Even Rhodes was brought along. Don't even try to catch up with me. Jet dodged the collision of the river crab with high spirits, and when he turned around, Rhodes was nowhere to be seen. At this time, there was a slight vibration on the ground, and the soft soil was turned up from below. Jet put force on his feet and subconsciously jumped out. A stone beetle burst out of the ground and jumped into the air. But a second stone beetle emerged from under Jet in the air. Jet twisted his waist and turned over to kick his legs. Eagle pounce. Oops. Jet's expression changed, because at this moment the third stone beetle came out with Rhodes on its back, opening and closing its mouthparts, and firmly grasped Jet's waist in one hand. Rhodes waved his fist and stopped at the tip of Jet's nose. After a moment, he smiled and said, "How is it?" Jet struggled for a few times. It was difficult to exert force when being clamped like this. He said with some annoyance, "I lost to you." The stone beetle let go of Jet, and its figure became illusory together with the river crab, and finally disappeared. Rhodes had jumped down and was extremely happy, but in order to take care of Jet's mood, he had to work hard to control it and only showed an ordinary smile. "Thank you for coming to practice with me." Rhodes extended his hand. Companies are supposed to help each other. Jet also stretched out his hand, but did not hold it. Instead, he opened Rhodes' palm with a snap, made a fist with his right hand, and faced Rhodes with the back of his hand. "The handshake is too serious for my liking." Rhodes followed his example and raised his hand to fist bump with Jeter, laughing together with him. He seemed to like this guild more and more. "Oh!" Marcus came out with a burst of dust, holding the microphone in his hand, and shouted excitedly, "The winner is Rhodes." After experiencing consecutive days of defeat, Rhodes won his first victory since joining the guild. Let us congratulate Rhodes for using summoning magic to summon powerful monsters. Rhodes, Germany. There was a burst of cheers from the crowd, many of whom had seen the battle between Rhodes and Urza. Until now, they admire Rhodes's energy in defeating and fighting again and again, but they still hope that he can win once. Although the time span before and after did not exceed half a month, it gave them a sense of joy that the children they had watched grow up finally had a successful career. Mira also joined in the cheers, but she just raised her fists and shouted, then stood there and smiled quietly. A red dress stands out among the crowd. "Good job, Rod," Kana shouted loudly, holding a wine bottle in her right hand and waving banknotes in her left hand, and shouted to Rod, "I'll treat you to a drink later. There's no need to look for anyone tomorrow. I'll accompany you." Today, except for Mira, who encouraged Rod to win, all the people participating in the gambling game were Jet, who bought it. So Kana made a lot of money, and he didn't have to worry about drinking money for a while. However, Rhodes was embarrassed. Although he knew that she was talking about practicing fighting with him, Kana's attire, the drunken look on her face, and the money in her hand combined with those words made it easy for people to think wildly. However, the cheers were followed by condemnations. A group of people who had lost the bet, including 2 uncle-level figures, Macau and Wakaba, began to vent their complaints about whether Jet had deliberately let loose and caused them to lose money. Jet decisively quarreled with them, and as expected, the quarrel quickly turned into a melee. Rhodes turned his head to avoid an unknown shoe, caught an innocent poro that was thrown as a weapon, and decisively stayed away from them. "We don't have much magic left. We'll suffer a lot from the fight. Let's retreat." Ugh. Worm's eyes turned into mosquito coils, and he responded in a daze. The president watched everyone fight with a smile. He was very happy with Rhodes' progress, and he was also very pleased that the children had such a good relationship. In addition, it is rare to do it in the yard instead of inside the house, so you don't have to worry about breaking things. Bang! Macau smashed the window and flew into the guild hall. The president kept smiling, and a vein popped out on his head. "B*************** D Wakaba." Macao crashed out of the window again with purple flames. Rhodes didn't even understand why he was fighting with Wakaba. The two were in the same group just now. However, he hugged Worm and hid further, and even wanted to summon the stone beetle again to block it, because the battle situation has begun to escalate. Wakaba spits out a fist made of smoke. Kana takes out a few cards, and Elfman's arm turns into a beast's claw. Mikao, don't even think about running away. Several figures rushed out of the hall and widened the holes in the windows. They had just been knocked over by the wine table. The president's smile gradually disappeared, and the veins on his forehead turned into a tic-tac-toe. I smell a fight. Natsu, who had just returned from a mission, rushed to the backyard without even putting down his luggage. Thanks to him, the unfortunate window had become one with the window next to it. I'm coming too. Fire dragons. The guild leader finally couldn't bear it anymore. His body expanded rapidly, and a huge shadow enveloped the entire battlefield. Get out of here. Don't destroy the guild. Before Natsu could even shout out Iron Fist, he was stepped down by the president. The people who were having a lively beating were all slapped into the ground by the president. Allah, it's like this again. Mira smiled softly behind the president, as if her biological brother was not among the people who were photographed on the ground. Rhodes hugged Worm and shivered. Speaking of destroying the guild, when he summoned the river crab, he also demolished the courtyard wall. Thank you to the president for not slapping me with the palm of Tathagata. I am so grateful that I fell to the ground. Chapter 35, Part 1. Mira reminded with a smile. Mr. Rhodes, who wants to be bowed down. It's time to go to work. Rhodes nodded. Okay, I understand. The word surrender is wrong, Mira said. It seems that not only magic, but also the common language has improved. Because you and Lucky often correct you, Levy and Marcus have helped a lot. Rhodes paused, because the 4 people he mentioned were all lying in the yard except Mira. Are they okay? It's okay. It's okay. You'll regain your energy soon. Mira walked towards the hall. Let's go and clean up the inside first. Rhodes turned around and followed him step by step. Just as Mira said, the companions who were patted in the yard by the president quickly got up and patted the dust off their bodies. Lucky was about to use magic to repair the wall when she was stopped by the president. Let Mikao and Natsu repair the walls and windows. No magic is allowed. Lucky provided a pile of wood, gave Natsu and the others a helpless look, and then only repaired the broken tables and chairs in the guild. The president was only angry for a moment. A few minutes later, Mikao and Wakaba, who were repairing the wall, started fighting again, and he turned a blind eye. Everyone was doing their own thing. Only Natsu shouted that he wanted to fight Rhodes again after hearing about the battle just now. Rhodes happily agreed, wanting to see what kind of fight he could have with Natsu now. After a busy period at noon, it was lunchtime that Rhodes looked forward to most every day. Today's dishes seemed to be particularly rich. In addition to the 2 plates of vegetarian dishes brought by Rhodes, Mira and Lucky each brought 2 plates of large dishes. The raw pickled prawns, each prawn with its head facing inward and its body facing outward, are spread neatly around the edge of the plate, which is eye-catching. Raw marinated crab paste. The pickled crab paste is different from the directly steamed crab paste. It is red and looks like it has solidified. The crab paste and crab meat lie quietly in the open crab shell, which makes people salivate. Seafood omelette. A whole piece of omelette is spread on a large disc, with a circle of razor clam meat neatly arranged around the edge, other shellfish meat piled in the middle, and green leeks can be seen at the bottom. All kinds of ingredients are perfectly blended together by the egg cake, like a blooming sunflower. Finally, there is the crab and shrimp casserole porridge. As soon as you open the lid, the fresh aroma is already hitting your nostrils, making your index fingers full. Worm lay helplessly on the edge of the table. He was a polite poro and would not move unless others gave him something to do. At best, he sticks out his tongue and drools pitifully. Rhodes could hardly control his greed. Is today a seafood theme? Why is it so rich? Lucky said, because Sister Mira said she wanted to celebrate you. She specially asked Mr. Cook to cook his signature dish. Mr. Cook is the chef of the guild kitchen and is said to have been working here for more than 20 years. Basically, every delicacy Rod eats here is made by him. This is so disrespectful. Rhodes' eyes were already obsessed with the delicious food on the table, and he couldn't look away. Is it excuse me? Mira went to bring 3 more glasses of blue wine, put them down and took a seat. 3 glasses of blue starry sky, Kana's treat. Rod and Lucky looked at the table next to them. Kana was sitting on the table, holding a wine bucket and motioning to them to raise the bucket. The 3 of them raised their glasses together to signal to Kana, then clinked their glasses and each took a small sip. Sweet. Rod tasted it carefully. He didn't know much about wine compared to gourmet food. It tasted a bit like Rio, but it was smoother and had more wine flavor. Mira said, "This is wine from neighboring Bosco. It is a bit expensive due to transportation and customs issues, but it tastes very good. The disadvantage is that the alcohol content is too low, which is not suitable for Kana's taste. You can just like it. It's delicious, thank you." Rhodes put down his wine glass and began to taste today's delicious food. The first is the raw pickled prawns. The prawn meat is so glutinous that it even feels a little sticky to the teeth. The taste is very different from the steamed prawns. Its own sweetness becomes more obvious with the marinade, and the overall taste is fresh but not fishy and full of deliciousness. Several other dishes also have their own characteristics. With every bite, you can even feel the chef's passion for his creations. Rod savored every dish carefully and praised it full of praise. "I think Mr. Cook will like you very much," Mira smiled. "There are many people in the guild who like to eat, but Rhodes is the only one who knows how to talk about food." "Haha," Rhodes said sheepishly. "Actually, I think Mr. Cook is too serious. I don't dare to speak just looking at his face. That's because Mr. Cook takes everything related to cooking seriously." And Mira remembered the past and said a little nostalgically, when Happy was still young, he once took Natsu to the kitchen to find fish to eat, but he accidentally knocked over the spice jar and broke a lot of ingredients. As a result, Mr. Cook chased them for 3 streets with a knife and beat Naz severely. From then on, Natsu and Happy never dared to enter the kitchen again, and Mr. Cook also developed the habit of staring seriously at everyone who entered the kitchen. "So that's it." Rhodes nodded heavily, worthy of being Fairy Tale's chef. "You must be more careful when going to the kitchen in the future and communicate through the food delivery port unless necessary." Lucky looked at Mira and felt a little happy. Sister Mira actually took the initiative to mention what happened at that time. She must have come out a little bit, right? Natsu was not the only one who accompanied Happy to find fish and was chased for several streets. In the afternoon, Rhodes played another round with Naz. "I was supposed to find Kana, but she drank too much and could no longer stand still. She was holding the wine barrel and talking in her sleep. Natsu's destructive power is much stronger than Jet's. One move of Fire Dragon's Iron Fist can break one of the stone beetle's legs. One move, Fire Dragon's Roar, can blow the ancient stone beetle away and even cause it to split twice. In other words, after burrowing into the ground, breaking out of the ground and raiding separately can bring a little trouble to Natsu. But unlike Jet, who was clamped and unable to exert force, Natsu would burst into flames and use powerful heat to directly send the stone beetle away. Such an obvious contrast made it difficult for Rhodes to determine the stone beetle's defense. Is this strong or not? Natsu's breath must be quite a powerful magic, right? In this battle, Rhodes achieved unprecedented results, relying on his numerical advantage to make Naz lose his balance and almost fall. It's a pity that he reacted before he could pursue him, supported himself on the ground, turned over, and received the Fire Dragon's Hook to successfully resolve the crisis. In terms of close combat, Rhodes was no longer helpless. He fought Natsu for a few decent rounds before turning into a tough guy, fight where you punch me and you punch me. Chapter 35, Part 2. Elfman was so moved that he cried when he saw this thrilling fight with fists and almost left the field to join the fight. Chapter 36, Part 1. Drink. Rhodes punched the sandbag in front of him, his bare upper body reflecting light because it was covered with sweat. This is a new evening training project. He spent a lot of money to buy the sandbag a few days ago. He always felt that it would help him become more self-disciplined. Because the money has been spent, if it is not used properly, it will feel very bad and distressed. After playing for half an hour, Rhodes stopped panting, wiped the sweat from his face, gently kneaded and patted his sore arms. After his breathing and heartbeat had almost calmed down, Rhodes went to take a shower. Before coming out of the bathroom, he bent his arms in front of the mirror. "You seem to have gotten a little stronger, right?" He bent down and patted his calf. Compared with the chubby appearance that he patted and shook 3 times before, it was really much stronger now. Snoring. Worm gave him a positive answer. "That's good. Let's start studying." Rhodes returned to the bedroom and sat at the table, opened a magazine and notebook and started writing and drawing. He had already read through more than 60 magazines using Feng Yang's glasses, and now they were divided into 2 piles. There are more than 20 books in a stack. There are photos of Mira in them, and they contain relatively important information. Another pile of more than 30 books contains only ordinary information. What Rhodes is doing now is to sort out useful information, such as major guilds, famous magicians, famous cities, etc. He will also record some special magic that causes trouble mentioned in the news. He must understand the world as much as possible and adapt to it, so as not to get into trouble in the future due to common sense mistakes. In addition, there are many kill-at-first-sight magic in this world. People who don't understand it can easily fall into it, but once they understand it, they can easily break it. For example, the charm magic was banned by the council a few years ago. To be honest, after knowing the effect of charm magic, I kind of wanted to learn it. Porla of the Red Sky was expelled from the regular guild giant's nose for stealing. She has been wandering around the border area between the kingdom of Fiori and the kingdom of Bosco, occasionally committing crimes. Rhodes wrote down the information about this dangerous person, closed his notebook, and started today's meditation practice. The president said that if you want to become stronger, you can only rely on down-to-earth efforts. No matter how powerful the magic is, it needs to be supported by corresponding magic power. Mira rarely warned him in a very serious manner that he should never be too ambitious, otherwise he would not only hurt himself, but may also affect his companions. Rhodes is a person who listens to advice, especially in areas he doesn't know enough about. So he just accumulated magic power to exercise his body every day, and was cautious even when using his mental power to explore the Summoner's Canyon that was covered by black mist. It would be okay if the herd of beasts running amok only happened in the forest, but once it happened in the city, Rhodes felt like he was in jail. On July 22nd, the weather was sunny. Today's opponent is Kana, and Rhodes thinks he can do it. Kana, as usual, had been drinking heavily with a large bucket of wine in the morning. Macau, who was sitting next to her, was one of her drinking buddies. Kana, are you getting better and better at drinking? Gulu gulu ha. Kana wiped the corner of his mouth and glanced at Macau. I want you to care, but you are also drinking. Macau spread his hands. It's not that I want to worry about it. I just think that if it's a girl, it would be better to drink less. Hey, I won money yesterday, so of course I have to drink to my heart's content today, Kana complained, picked up the barrel again, but drank a little slower. Today's young people. Macao sounded like an old man. After taking a few sips as Macau sighed, Kana put down the barrel with a bang. Rhodes, are you ready? Right away. As an excellent worker, Rhodes had to finish your own work first. Don't get drunk again. It's still early. Because he is often drunk, Kana is very aware of his alcohol capacity, and drinking a bucket in the morning can only be regarded as an appetizer. Mira made a rough calculation, and Kana alone accounted for more than 20% of the entire guild's alcohol consumption. In other words, a considerable part of Rhodes' current salary can be regarded as Kana's contribution. After Rhodes finished the cleaning work at hand, the two went to the backyard to prepare for the duel. Of course, there were people watching the fun, but not as many as usual. Rhodes summoned the river crab as usual and prepared to test it. Just in case, check again. Kana took out 3 playing card-sized cards from the satchel on his waist. Will this guy die? Rhodes said, don't worry, it will be repatriated if it is injured to a certain extent, and it will recover tomorrow. And compared to Poro, river crabs and stone beetles seem to be less spiritual. Then I'm welcome. Kana showed a confident expression, and the card in his hand flashed with golden light. Is this still the drunkard? Rhodes found that Kana's whole aura changed a bit as soon as he became serious. He even had the illusion that he was facing Urza. The river crab charges forward, and Kana shoots out the 3 cards in his hand, hitting the river crab accurately on the head. The 3 cards exploded, and the golden light flashed, and the river crab had been sent back. This power. Somewhat unexpectedly, Rhodes summoned the ancient stone beetle. Kana threw out 2 cards. One turned into flames, and the other turned into violent wind. The ancient stone beetle was hit by these 2 magics and instantly split into 2 stone beetles. This is not over yet. Kana shot 3 more cards, and 3 golden thunderbolts fell on the heads of the 3 stone beetles. Light, fire, wind, thunder. Rhodes' eyes were filled with cool special effects, and he now understood the meaning of an all-around magician. After the 3 stone beetles were beaten and split into 6 mini stone beetles, Kana casually shot out 6 more cards. 6 explosions sounded, and the stone beetle was sent back. Kana moved his wrists and said with a smile, okay, the next close combat is the focus, right? Rhodes nodded. Although he could summon another river crab or a stone beetle alone, it was not necessary. This time should be regarded as a tactical mistake. When encountering enemies in the future, you must summon stone beetles and let them burrow into the ground. A few minutes later, Rod was lying on the ground doubting life. This speed, this power, is Kana that strong? Of course, Kana is very strong. Facing Rhodes' question, Mira replied, she has been listed as an S-class mage candidate for 3 consecutive years. Unfortunately, she has been a little unlucky every time she takes the exam. Like meeting Urza in the exam, meeting Mistgang, etc. S-class candidate. Rhodes thought for a moment about Urza's sense of oppression and the powerful sleep magic of Mistgang. I felt a lot better all of a sudden. It was not embarrassing for Mengxin to lose to Kana. Kana must be sad, right? Rhodes glanced at Kana, who was drinking from a small cup. People who look so bold on the surface also have their own troubles in their hearts. Chapter 36, Part 2. You can read more daily new novels on fictionzone.net. Both sites share the same login details, so you don't need to sign up again. Chapter 37, Part 1. Kana's fighting skills are different from those of Natsu and others, focusing more on grappling and wrestling skills. I don't know if her exaggerated strength was gained by practicing lifting wine barrels every day. In addition, during the battle, Rhodes noticed that Kana raised his hand twice to insert an eye, and once raised his leg to kick the crotch. Fortunately, he stopped in time. However, Rhodes was still scared into a cold sweat. He would have to think carefully about how to deal with this kind of move in the future. Boys must protect themselves when going out. Rhodes took advantage of his free time to review the battle process and silently raised Kana's danger level by 1 level. Kana shook the empty barrel he had finished drinking. Rod, a glass of beer. Okay. Rhodes went to the corner and picked up a wine barrel, then paused. Kana, did you just say a cup or a barrel? 1 cup. Just 1 cup. Why are you so verbose? Kana glanced at Macau, who was arguing with Wakaba about their parenting experience. Rhodes poured a glass of wine for Kana with confusion, and then saw that Kana's drinking speed had slowed down. It was as if I couldn't bear it anymore, so I took a sip to relieve my addiction. Why are you looking at me like that? You still want to fight me? You can continue to fight. Rhodes doesn't mind getting more experience. I just think there's something wrong with you. I think so too. Mira smelled the gossip and suddenly said, could it be that Kana has a boyfriend? How is that possible? Kana denied it. She raised her glass and said, wine is my boyfriend. That means you have someone you like, but you don't have the courage to confess it. The boys who have been in contact with Kana more recently. Let me guess. Mira was particularly enthusiastic about this kind of thing, and she immediately targeted the person next to her. It's Rhodes. Kana, you must have been moved by Rhodes' indomitable spirit, and then you were fascinated by Rhodes' manliness in today's battle. Kana breathed a sigh of relief and felt relieved when she saw that Mira was still acting like a fool as usual. Last month, Mira also said that Wakaba has a crush on Lucky. That's nonsense. That guy obviously likes every beautiful and gentle girl equally. Mature guild members all know that any gossip coming from Myra's mouth should be ignored first and then questioned. Rhodes was not mature enough and immediately denied what she said. Although I am very happy to be praised so much by you, Mira, my manhood today has been thrown to the ground by Kana's shoulder. He looked at Kana's crossed legs as she sat sideways in front of the bar, and was almost completely kicked off by Kana's high-heeled sandals. If it's not Rhodes, who else could it be? Mira thought. Did Loki take action against you? Does he have the guts? Kana sneered. And that's not the kind I like. Why would I talk about such a boring topic? Kana picked up the wine glass and strode away, pausing midway, then walking smaller, and finally sat down at the table with the 2 drinking buddies, Macau Wakaba. Mira pinched her chin and guessed, could it be Macau? The more you guess, the more outrageous it becomes. Miss Mila. Rhodes admired her imagination. Macao is almost 20 years older than him, right? That's possible. Mira smiled and finally ended the topic. By the way, would you like to go shopping with me this afternoon? Okay. Rhodes didn't hesitate, but asked doubtfully, isn't Mr. Cook responsible for the purchasing? He seems to like to select the ingredients himself, because Mr. Cook and his grandson have an appointment to go boating and fishing this afternoon. So you can only ask me, Mira said. He has already made a list. We just need to choose carefully. Mr. Cook, who is extremely serious about cooking, can relax his principles in selecting ingredients for the sake of his grandson. It should be said that he is a very good grandpa. No problem. Leave the baggage to me. Rhodes is very clear about his position, and such a difficult matter as selecting ingredients is definitely not his responsibility. Miss Mira, do you want to go out? Well, I have some things to buy. Miss Mira, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Miss Mira, will you be included in the next issue of Magic Weekly? Sorry, I haven't taken any magazine jobs recently. After leaving the guild and walking through the residential area, Rhodes immediately understood how popular Mira was. Almost everyone who recognized her greeted her with a smile. Some would simply say hello, and some would take the opportunity to ask a question or two. You are so popular. Everyone is so enthusiastic. Mira sighed with a chuckle occasionally. I feel troubled. Yes, Miss Mira Jane Strauss, the big star. Would you consider putting on sunglasses and a mask next time you go out, to stand out from the crowd? As he became more and more familiar with her, Rhodes became more and more casual in talking to her. Good idea. Mira clapped her hands gently. But if I want to stand out from the crowd, I can try to look like you, only with a different head. Forgive me, I don't want to use the name of Fairy Tales Transvestite Wizard to board Soshala. Rhodes gave up and found that Mira no longer directly corrected his wording mistakes. Mira smiled, stepped onto the stone arch bridge side by side with Rhodes, and walked to the other side of the river. She pointed forward. The next intersection is Shopping Street. Have Rhodes been here before? Rhodes shook his head. Not yet. My current activities are basically on the other side of the river, and I always buy things in shops near the guild. Huh. You've been here for almost a month. Haven't you taken a look around the city? Mira asked. Then what do you do after get off work? Practice physical fitness, practice magic, meditate, read books, read magazines. Rhodes thought about it and realized that everything he had done these days was for survival and a better survival. What can be called leisure is playing music on the gramophone while doing laundry. Even reading magazines is to understand the world and gather intelligence. Mira asked, Don't you find it very hard? It's okay. Learning magic is quite interesting in itself, Rhodes said, and only by practicing hard can I feel more at ease and be able to pay off that large debt. Ah, the debt problem is indeed a headache, Mira said, but there is no need to put too much pressure on it. The president is rarely short of money. The more this happens, the more I want to pay it back as soon as possible. The president takes care of me too much. Rhodes was helpless. Many times, the pressure came from his own conscience. This seems to be considered internal friction. Mira smiled but said nothing. The president regarded Rhodes and other members as his own children. But Rhodes doesn't seem to realize it yet, or hasn't adapted to it yet. Get out of the way. Don't block the road. The two of them entered the shopping street while talking, but as soon as they took a few steps, someone rushed towards them. Get out of the way. Don't meddle in other people's business. The man was holding a women's handbag in one hand and a short knife in the other, threatening others to give way. Someone behind me was shouting things like, "Catch him," and "Bag robber." Seeing the other party getting closer and closer, Mira frowned slightly and raised an arm to protect Rhodes behind her. Rod? Chapter 37, Part 2. Sisters, you said you're not good at fighting, right? Why are you protecting me? Chapter 38, Part 1. Rhodes naturally refused to let Mira face danger. He pressed down Mira's arm and took her to the side of the road. Mira seemed stunned for a moment, and then retreated to the side of the road obediently. Rhodes stood alone in the middle of the road, raised his leg and kicked the bag thief's wrist, causing the short knife to fly into the air. Hateful. Before the bag thief finished speaking, Rhodes had already pinched the opponent's wrist and then gave him a hard push with his shoulder from one side of his body. Kana personally handed over the opponent's shoulder. With a muffled bang, the bag thief's body hit the road heavily, and the bag in his hand was thrown out. Without raising his head, Rhodes gently stretched his right hand to the side and just caught the dropped dagger handle. Success in being cool. Rhodes was quite satisfied with his performance, but there was a slight problem in the following steps. Originally, he planned to catch the dagger, squat down and stick it in the ear of the bag thief to scare him, but he ignored some small problems. First of all, the ground of the commercial street is paved with bluestone, not the ground like that in the guild. Secondly, this bag thief is an ordinary person, and his body is not as strong as a magician. Rhodes' move was based on the intensity of fighting with his companions. He was knocked down so hard that he coughed out a mouthful of blood, rolled his eyes and fainted. There was no need to threaten him anymore. Is it too harsh? I didn't mean to. Rhodes squatted down and checked with a guilty conscience. He was still alive, but his arm might be broken. It doesn't matter. Robbery with a knife is a serious crime. Just leave it to the sheriff to deal with it later. Mira picked up the bag on the ground and said, Let's wait for the owner for a while. Some pedestrians nearby were already looking for the sheriff, and the person who had shouted from behind also ran over. Isn't that Miss Mira? It's the wizard of fairy tale. Someone soon recognized Mira, and also saw the guild crest that was not completely covered by Rhodes' short sleeves. Someone went to check the bag thief's injuries. After telling the story, not only did no one sympathize with him, but some even looked regretful. After being beaten up by Fairy Tale's magician, he only fainted and suffered a broken arm. This guy was very lucky. Rhodes listened to their praises and strange comments and looked at Mira with some suspicion. Am I embarrassing Fairy Tale?
That's not the case.
Mira smiled. That was so handsome just now, moreover. The reputation of the guild remains the same as before. They are all good people, but sometimes they do things inappropriately. The owner is a plump ant with a slightly old-fashioned perm and blush. Mira handed the bag over. Please check if there is anything missing. Thank you for your help. There is something very important in the bag. Huh? The ant was slightly startled after seeing Myra's face clearly, and then saw Rhodes' coat of arms. You are the one. What a coincidence. My husband is also from your guild. His name is Wakaba. The ant made a gesture with her hand in front of her forehead. It's the one with the hair like this, the old smoker. So you are Mr. Wakaba's wife. My name is Mira Jane, and this is Rod. Mira spoke to her aunt naturally. I often hear him talking about you and your daughter. Without you, his life would be a mess. Really? Is that what he said?
The ant was both happy and a little shy. He still knows that's the case.
Yes, Mr. Wakaba did mention you a lot. Rhodes laughed dryly. I mentioned it often, but most of the time I just complained about it. He found that Mira was quite good at talking. The first half of the sentence, I often heard him mention, was true, while the second half of the sentence, if not, was her speculation. However, the combination caused subtle misunderstandings. And even if the aunt asked about this when she got home, Wakaba would not be stupid enough to go out of her way to clarify it. Then the aunt asked some more questions, such as whether Wakaba stared at the waitresses in the guild every day or flicked cigarette ashes randomly. Mira answered them one by one with a smile, as if she didn't answer them. She is always shady. She will not talk nonsense about things that may affect the harmony of other people's families. Rhodes silently studied the art of speaking for a while, and a police officer wearing a brown uniform hurried over with his team. Wakaba's wife explained the situation to them and confirmed that Rhodes acted bravely. The sheriff checked the bag thief's injuries, and after confirming that he was not dead, he asked people to carry him away, and also took away the dagger used as evidence. As Mira said, robbery with a knife is a very serious crime in this country. Not only was Rhodes not held accountable, he also received thanks. Magnolia reputation plus 10. The matter was settled quickly, and the aunt also said goodbye to Mira, an old girl with whom we were very chatty. By the way, I give this to you. Just think of it as a small thank you. The aunt stuffed 2 bills into Rhodes' hand. She looked at Mira and then at Rhodes, blinked and whispered, Young man, you have to work hard. Rhodes glanced at the ticket, Honey's Dessert House new store invitation voucher. Before he could refuse, the aunt had already walked away. What did she say? Give us hospitality coupons. Rhodes thought for a moment and handed both of them to her. Do you like desserts? It won't open until next month. Mira took one and shook it. Shall we try it together then? Okay. Next month will be more than a week away, and there will be desserts. Rhodes is a little looking forward to it. Then, it's time to get down to business. Mira put away the hospitality coupon, took out the shopping list, and opened it to reveal a long piece of paper. Rhodes went over to take a look, held his pendant, and let he crab carry it back later. The prosperity of the shopping street is somewhat different from Rhodes' imagination. Compared with the high-rise buildings and busy traffic before the time travel, this place should be regarded as a form between an urban commercial street and a rural market. There were not too few pedestrians coming and going, and the sounds of hawking were also coming and going. There are both good-sized shops and simple stalls along the street. Considering that this is a city or town with a permanent population of only 60,000, such a shopping street should be considered very good. Mira selects high-quality fruits, vegetables, and meats, and uses her pleasant voice to skillfully negotiate prices with bosses with different personalities. Rhodes followed step by step, taking a food bag from time to time, watching Mira select ingredients for a while, and looking at the surrounding environment for a while. Some rotten vegetable leaves were randomly discarded near the vegetable stall, and the front of the seafood shop was wet, with small puddles of stagnant water scattered around. The smelly wind blows over, the dirty puppies run over, and the people shopping are bustling. This scene is very much like life. Rhodes, let's go. Next, we need to order some wine. The pleasant voice came, and Rhodes woke up as if from a dream. In front of him was the familiar smiling face, and his heartbeat was quietly accelerating. Chapter 38, Part 2. He always felt that this smile was far away from him before, but now it suddenly felt very close. What are you, tired? No, let's go. We is such a good word. He just suddenly had a little unrealistic idea. Chapter 39, Part 1. After entering August, the weather seems to be a bit hotter. The greening of magnolia is very good. Trees can be seen everywhere, which also leads to the endless chirping of cicadas. You may feel good listening to it when you are calm, and feel that this is what summer should be like. But when I'm not in such a good mood, I just feel annoying. The ceiling fan in the guild was spinning slowly, bringing a breeze that was better than nothing in the noisy tavern. In this hot weather, Rhodes felt that even everyone's noisy voices were filled with heat. In fact, there were many people in the tavern who were as hot and lazy as Rhodes. In severe cases, they were unable to speak, and only a few sips of cold beer could alleviate the problem. At this time, Gray became one of the most popular people. Even though he was sweating profusely due to the heat, he still couldn't resist everyone's entreaties and became a ruthless ice-making machine. But this is also good for him, even if the people who receive his favor are embarrassed to remind him to put on clothes. Of course, these people do not include Natsu. This guy is completely unaffected. Even in this heat, he still has the energy to run around and even do some weird dances occasionally. Mira brought an empty glass, put a few ice cubes on it, poured a drink and pushed it to Rhodes. You don't seem to be in good spirits. Thank you, Rhodes said with a grimace. I didn't sleep well last night. It was too hot, and the mosquitoes were very noisy. The mosquito repellent left over from Goodman's move just ran out, and Rod reminded himself to buy a new bottle after get off work. Mira showed sympathetic eyes. That's hard enough. Why haven't you seen Worm in the past 2 days? I don't want to come out because the weather is too hot. I'm an unloyal guy and hide in the howling abyss to escape the heat. Rhodes picked up the cup and put it on his forehead. The cold touch made him feel better. I suspect that things may have been unfavorable recently, and even the increase in magic power is not as obvious as before. That's of course, because your magic power level is already very good. Of course, the same increase is not as obvious as it was at first. Can I be considered good like this? At least Jet and Marcus are completely inferior to you. Mira covered her mouth slightly, feeling that saying this seemed a bit rude to Jet and the others. When Rhodes first obtained the stone beetle, it was already a headache for Jet. Not to mention that his magic power has increased a lot now, and he also has the 3 wolves. 3 wolves is the common name of this wild monster combination, including 2 shadow wolves and a large shadow wolf. The shadow wolf is similar in size to a tiger, much larger than an ordinary wolf, and looks more powerful than an ordinary wolf, a bit like a saber-toothed tiger. The large shadow wolf is even larger and has 2 heads. When the 3 giant wolves leaned over and bared their teeth, their ferocious looks were revealed, and they clearly knew they were not to be trifled with. After many tests and sparring sessions with his companions, Rhodes determined that they were more agile than stone beetles and better at attacking. In addition to the basic bite attack, shadow wolves have a keen sense of smell that can be used for tracking, and are also good at sneaking and making surprise attacks in the shadows. As the name suggests, shadow wolves live up to their name. Although it seems weak in the game, its strength here is not bad. At least Kana can't hit them with cards as easily as it can against stone beetles. As for the magic power consumed to summon them, it is basically about 3 river crabs, which is similar to that of stone beetles. Now Rhodes can command the stone beetles and shadow wolves to fight at the same time. As soon as the fight starts, the one-on-one fight will immediately turn into a group fight, which is a huge advantage. The problem that followed was that Rhodes himself was more likely to be targeted as a breakthrough point. There are currently 2 most effective solutions. One is to ride on a river crab and run far away. The second is to follow the stone beetle to burrow into the ground and run as far as possible within the limited breath-holding time. The tactics are terrible, but they work. However, these can only cure the symptoms. If you want to cure the root cause, you still need your own strength. Continuously exercising your body and practicing fighting skills is one way, but it requires long-term persistence. Another way is to learn 1 or 2 ability-based magics, but this method, Rhodes asked, everyone seems to only specialize in one kind of magic. Why don't they learn more to cope with different situations? Woolen cloth? Because there is not enough time and energy, Mira said. Whether it is learning magic or improving magic, it requires a lot of time and energy. If you learn many kinds of magic at the same time, you may achieve nothing for a long time. It is better to concentrate on studying a certain kind of magic. Imagine if you added 1 more kind of magic practice to your current schedule. would you still be able to squeeze out time? Rhodes thought for a while. Meditation and physical fitness are the basis for becoming stronger, and they must not be given up. The proficiency of summoning magic is an important factor in reducing the chant words, and the time for this practice should not be less. Also, working hours. You can't just do nothing and wait for the guild to support you. Even Nabu, who has never accepted tasks, occasionally works part-time to earn some food expenses. Other than that, it's time to read. When your common sense is almost complete, you should be able to use it to learn other magic. Now, squeeze in some time to sleep? No. Mira immediately objected. She raised her index finger to indicate the importance of what she was going to say next. Sleep is an important way to restore mental strength. You have mentioned your time arrangement before, right? That is already an exaggeration. If you reduce your sleep time to practice magic, you will run the risk of suffering from magic power deficiency. Rhodes has read about magic deficiency syndrome in books, and it is usually easily induced when magic power is overdrawn. Once the disease occurs, it can range from coma to sudden death, which is a very dangerous disease for magicians. Practicing magic because you are afraid of death and practicing magic to death, that's too stupid. Rhodes responded seriously. I know. Just because you don't have time to practice now doesn't mean you'll have to prioritize things later. As long as the goals of this stage are completed, supplementing knowledge and shortening chants, there will naturally be time to practice other things in the future. He has only been studying for less than a month, so he can't rush it. Don't look so sad. I have a good news for you. Mira seemed to be relieved and put a stack of banknotes on the counter. Dang, dang, dang. Salary has been paid. So early. Rhodes was surprised and picked up the banknotes and clicked them. No more, no less than 120,000 J. He asked, No, I don't think I've been working for a full month. Mira thought for a while. I worked overtime on the purchasing day. Then thank you. I want to thank the guild for taking care of me, and I also want to thank Mira for thinking of a reason. Chapter 39, Part 2. Rhodes realized that this was not the hotel where he worked as a summer job, but the guild, the fairy tale. Mira waved to Lucky, who was chatting with her companions not far away. Raki, come here and get your share. Here we come. Lucky took over her salary. She was a full-time employee, and her banknotes were thicker than rods. I finally received a measure of the value of my time and labor. The value of time and labor. A strange expression from Lucky. Rhodes eliminated this phrase from his lexicon. It was already very hard to correct the common language, and he didn't want to learn it. Lucky rubbed the banknote with her face affectionately. I can buy a few more little cuties. Little cutie. Okay. Chapter 40, Part 1. Before the salary you just received has warmed up, you have to spend 2/3 of it to pay the rent. The disposable balance is only 40,000 J. Last month, the president borrowed 150,000 J from Rhodes. The reward for asking Shipiki to teach him the common language is 80,000 J, as well as the medical expenses for Ms. Porliusika's treatment for his injuries. The president never mentioned asking Rhodes to step in for these two items, but Rhodes couldn't pretend he didn't know. I will repay 20,000 yuan this month first, and keep 20,000 yuan as living expenses. If this continues, it will take more than a year to pay it off. But the season will change in 2 months, and there will be a lot of things to buy, so it's better to save a little more and pay them back together. Rhodes took stock of his debts and the speed of making money, and the pressure immediately came back. Based on the combat capabilities of the Stone Beetle and the 3 Wolves, the Toad and the 6 Birds will be enough to handle low-difficulty crusade missions. Considering the possibility of unexpected situations, be cautious and wait for the red and blue buffs to come out before completing the mission. It's better to team up with someone else. Stimulated by the salary, Rhodes made a short-term plan for himself that was both urgent and stable. In fact, after being certified by the president, Rhodes can now take on many jobs, but he feels it is not safe and wants to practice for another month or 2. In the tavern, Macau drank a few more glasses of cold beer to relieve the heat, and his voice became a little louder. Wakaba, you didn't get divorced secretly, did you? How is that possible? Wakaba wondered. Why do you say that? Because I haven't heard you complain about your wife for several days. Macao felt that he was justified. Speaking of this, Wakaba became even more puzzled. I don't know why my wife has been so nice to me recently, as if she was back when we were first married. Apart from dressing up a little more rustic and getting a little fatter, there's really nothing to complain about. Macau burped the wine, and then took a few more sips. Damn it, I thought you were in an unhappy marriage like me. Why did you suddenly become so happy? How come you have an unhappy marriage? Kana interjected. Isn't your wife divorcing you because you only focus on work all day and don't care about home at all? I'm a man. Why don't I make more money to support my family? Macau argued with a red face, and then his tone dropped again. And I have changed. Now I not only care about work, but also take good care of Romeo. Damn it, I also want a happy marriage. Kana knew from the look on Macau's face that he drank too much and was too lazy to compete with him. She held her own small wine glass and reluctantly looked at the large wine barrel in the corner. Humph, I drank like that all day long, and even advised me to drink less. The drunken Makao was still asking Wakaba. Tell me quickly, how did you do it? I told you I don't know. Rhodes looked at Mira and indicated with his eyes. Thank you for your contribution. Mira smiled and said nothing. Kana saw that Macau was not willing to let go and was ready to drink and go crazy at any time. So he reminded him. Have you encountered anything special recently? Something special. I encountered a robbery more than a week ago. Maybe you were scared that time? Wakaba said. As you know, the robbers were caught by Rod and Mira. In order to thank Rhodes, Wakaba also tutored Rhodes for several days. Rhodes benefited a lot from the rich experience of this old guild member. He was even willing to tell Rhodes which issues of Sosaro were the best. Worthless information. Rhodes decided on the spot to write it down and sell the information to other S*X batches later. Macau was still pestering him relentlessly. Wakaba was so annoyed that he finally had no choice but to take action to solve the problem. After get off work, Rod went to visit a daily necessities store. I originally planned to buy a bottle of mosquito repellent, but ended up buying a mosquito net. You have to buy the potion when you run out, but the mosquito net can be used forever, a money-saving tip from Rhodes. Rod, who was about to go home, remembered that Mira just reminded him that tomorrow is the opening day of Honey Dessert House, so remember to bring the experience coupon. So Rhodes walked to the clothing store. This money is still not saved. After leaving the clothing store, after walking a few steps, Rhodes turned around again and entered the barber shop. Not only can I save money today, I have to add more. The sound of scissors clicking sounded above the head, and the hair fell in clusters. Rhodes stared at himself in the mirror and calmly thought about whether he was tempted or had a brain twitch. This doesn't seem difficult to determine. The problem is what he looks like in Myra's eyes. If you were to label yourself from her perspective, it would probably be newcomers, companions, occasionally needing care, more calm than Natsu and the others, practicing quite hard, etc. After counting for a while, Rhodes discovered that he was probably the same as other companions, and only had a basic affection for Mira. At most, it's because we work together every day, chat often, and become a little familiar with each other. Rhodes sighed. There is still a long way to go. By the way, I have a little more motivation to practice hard. Early the next morning, he stretched and hit the sandbags to stretch his muscles. Rod washed and prepared to go out. Tell yourself that you don't need to think too much at this stage, and just get along as usual. But my body honestly changed into new clothes and tidied my hair for a while in front of the mirror. After finishing their daily work in the tavern in the morning, the two of them went out together. Fortunately, the president is here today, and Sally and Izzy are also here to work part-time. It doesn't matter if Mira and Rod leave temporarily. There was nothing except being a little uncomfortable with Lucky's hot look. From the look in her eyes, Rhodes could tell that Mira, who gossiped about others all day long, was going to be gossiped about by others today. Today, Mira was wearing a beige dress, with the hem just enough to cover her knees. Because the sun has not been very friendly since the morning, I also put on a sun hat with a big pink bow tied on it, giving me a youthful atmosphere. Rhodes didn't pay much attention to it before, but now he realized that Myra's head was just a little higher than his shoulders. The height is pretty good, ba. When walking side by side with her on the road, there is a faint fragrance wafting from the side. If it was before time travel, Rhodes would think it was the smell of shampoo, cosmetics, or perfume. But he had seen from magazines that there were many magic products on the market for women. Magic that could change the color of clothes at any time. Magic that could emit various floral fragrances. Rhodes wasn't sure whether Mira used these, but this dress looks good, and the fragrance smells good too. Mira seemed to be in a good mood. Have you cut your hair? Well, I haven't repaired it in almost a month. I felt embarrassed to say that it was cut on purpose, so I had to find a reasonable excuse. By the way, I wanted to know her opinion. So I asked casually, is the haircut okay? Chapter 40, Part 2. Mira turned her head and looked at it for a few more seconds. It suits you very well. I feel more handsome. Really? Rhodes smiled, thank you. It's over. Knowing that this compliment is probably just a polite word, but the joy in my heart can't help but surge up. It's over, right? Chapter 41, Part 1. Welcome. The person in charge of greeting guests at the entrance of the dessert house is a pretty girl. Rhodes' evaluation is that he is not as good as Mira. Can you two sit here? It was another cute waitress who guided the two of them to their seats. Rhodes' evaluation is that he is not as good as Mira. When passing by the cashier lady showed a gentle smile. Rhodes' evaluation is that it is not as good as me. Alas, I'm on top. Calm down, calm down. I don't know if it's because it just opened, but the business of this dessert house is very good. After Rod and Mira sat down, there were no empty seats in the store. Most of the customers are girls, and a small number are male and female groups. There is soft music playing in the store, and the atmosphere is quite good. Iced coffee, hazelnut cookies, blueberry mousse cake. Mira ordered 2 desserts, and then showed a distressed look. Rhodes asked at the right time, "What's wrong?" "I want to try the will puff too." Mira pinched her fat-free waist under the table, "But it feels like it will make me fat. Do magicians also have this kind of trouble?" Rhodes thought for a moment. "Then I'll have some, and we'll eat alternately." "What a good idea." Myra's eyes lit up. "That won't take up the portion you want to eat. You know I like to taste a variety of different delicacies, and I don't worry about my body shape. It doesn't matter if I order more. Desserts are not what you eat." Rhodes felt that he exercised so much every day and didn't worry about calories at all. The waitress in charge of taking orders glanced at Mira enviously and quickly wrote down what she ordered. "Please wait a moment. The atmosphere here is great. No wonder it's so popular." Mira took off her sun hat and put it aside, smoothed the bangs on her forehead with her hands, put the rubber bands on her wrists on her hair, and resumed her usual hairstyle. In fact, the bangs look good when they are let down. "Well, it's much quieter than in the guild." Rhodes didn't stare at her all the time. He glanced at the whispering couples and best friends in the store. "I feel like this is a great place for afternoon tea, dates, etc." Mira triggered the passive gossip attribute. Does Rod often bring girls to this store for dates?" "I'm not Loki." Rhodes believes that this kind of question must be answered resolutely and decisively. "I didn't have any female friends that I was close to before, and I wouldn't go into places like dessert shops and coffee shops. Before college, I didn't dare to fall in love early, but after college, I played with my brothers every day. Cafe times internet cafe." Square root. Mira blinked. "Why do you suddenly feel a little pitiful?" "Hello," Mira laughed. "No wonder I didn't even dare to look directly at Kana at first. Please forget about this." Rhodes is now used to it, not just looking directly at him, but also fighting. "Although you can't win. Please take your time with your dessert." The waiter brought 2 cups of iced coffee and a portion of exquisite desserts. The will puff is more delicate than I thought. Let's try this first." Mira took out the knife and fork, and Rhodes removed the plate. "No. Hey. Why?" "I was made fun of, not happy." Mira laughed, put her hands together, and blinked her left eye slightly. "How about I apologize?" "Well, I forgive you." Rhodes nodded calmly, pushed the plate over, and looked out the window. "Discharging electricity is too foul, so I have to look elsewhere to calm down." Then, Rhodes saw something familiar. Stone statue? Hill? What? Mira had a small piece of snack stuck on her fork, but she hadn't put it into her mouth yet. She followed Rhodes' gaze and saw a mountain of suitcases and a petrified Urza. Mira put down her fork. "Urza?" Rhodes nodded. It seems that he was blocked by the clerk because there was no seat. Mira thought for a moment. "Ask her to come in? Come squeeze in with us." "Of course not. But it's so pitiful." Looking at her luggage cart, you can tell that she just finished her mission and rushed here without even returning home. "All our companions." Rhodes sighed inwardly. "Then I'll call her." "Wait a minute." Mira stopped him. "What's wrong?" Mira covered her mouth and smiled. "I want to see more. Urza is very cute like this. Dark belly." So Rhodes took a second look. The majestic Urza looked lost because of such a trivial matter. It was really cute and had a contrasting cute feeling. The devil in the dessert house finally invited the fairy queen outside the shop. Rhodes reminded her that there were no extra stools inside, but Urza immediately pulled one out of the mountain-like suitcase and took out a folding chair. It's not a style for daily use. Looking at the pictures and words on it, it looks more like a souvenir. It was obvious that she really wanted dessert. Rhodes and Mira were still sitting opposite each other, while Urza sat on the side and called the waiter to take orders. "Strawberry cake, strawberry pudding, strawberry milkshake." "I ordered a dozen of them, all strawberry flavored." Don't make your preferences too obvious. The waiter quickly wrote down the menu and left, giving Rhodes a scumbag look before leaving. This sister is too arrogant. Who dares to slander Urza? Mira was already chatting with Urza. Did the mission go well? You came back earlier than scheduled. Yeah. Urza clenched her fists and raised her arms, her eyes full of anticipation. Because I've been looking forward to this store for a long time, Mira said, as expected of Urza. But when it comes to the work of the council, is it really okay to advance the matter without authorization? Urza also felt a little guilty. I hope the president won't be scolded. Rhodes asked curiously, what kind of mission actually involves the Senate? Does it need to be kept secret? Urza looked at Mira. In principle, it needed to be kept secret until the confirmation was completed, even to her companions. But now there is only the finishing work left, and that is Mira's final say. It doesn't matter if Urza's work has been completed. It will be published in the newspaper in a few days anyway. Mira said, it is a mission to assist the Senate in arresting all members of the Dark Guild Scorpion Tail. Doesn't the Senate have its own law enforcement team? Rhodes' common sense supplement plan was very effective. Yes, but the council is a continent-wide organization, and there is only one branch in Fiori. The hiding place of poisonous Scorpion's tail is relatively remote, and troops cannot be mobilized quickly. Usually when encountering this kind of situation, the Senate will release assistance commissions to local guild alliances in various places, and then the local guild alliances will allocate them to specific guilds. I see. So this task was given to our guild by the local guild alliance. Rhodes speculated. Is it because the guild has a high reputation in the alliance? Urza denied. No, it's because the president is too unlucky. The rewards for this type of commission are usually lower than tasks of the same difficulty. So as long as it is not a very dangerous task, the allocation method is determined by drawing lots by the presidents. As she spoke, Urza sighed, and our president. Mira smiled and continued, I often get the lottery. Chapter 41, Part 2. Rhodes. Chapter 42, Part 1. The unlucky president often gets tasks that are low-paying but not low complexity. Since he can't do everything himself, he can only leave them to the children. The most ideal candidate was originally Laxus, but his character was really difficult to deal with. Therefore, Urza, who has a strong sense of responsibility and sufficient strength, would often stand up and resolve these matters for the president. Rhodes took a closer look and found that Urza's ability to speak well in the guild may not only be due to her strength. Wait a minute. Rhodes suddenly discovered a blind spot. Then what did Urza mean when she said the mission was completed ahead of schedule? Is it what I imagined? Urza nodded. I just singled out the entire guild. It's no big deal. Rhodes was silent, as if it was no big deal. Could it be that the outside is actually not as dangerous as you think? Rhodes hesitated and said, isn't it unsafe to do this? Well, the decision made in haste this time was a bit hasty. Urza reflected on herself seriously, but then said again, because I'm so looking forward to the strawberry cake from this store, I really can't wait for the reinforcements. I will consider it carefully next time. Very good, because I was in a hurry to go home and eat cake, so I just cleared a dark guild, which is very reasonable. Mira was not surprised at all. This was indeed Urza's style. Moreover, she has read the information about the poisonous scorpion tail, and Urza can definitely deal with it. The waiter quickly brought Urza's order, and the table was filled with small plates. Urza is immersed in the world of desserts, and from time to time she shows a cute expression that is completely different from usual. Rhodes thought about it secretly. Urza defeated the entire Dark Guild, and I was defeated by Urza. So my strength is about equal to that of a Dark Guild, and my logic is rigorous. Ha ha ha, low-key, low-key. After finishing his dessert, Rhodes entertained himself. Urza pushed the strawberry cake she ordered in front of Mira and Rhodes. Let's eat together, Rod asked. Don't you like strawberry cake the most? That's why you have to share. Sharing with your companions will make the food even more delicious. Urza looked intoxicated when she said this, and her tone was almost perfect. Since it's Urza's wish, then eat a little more. Mira cut a small cake in half and gave it to Rhodes. Then the more Urza ate, the more she felt something was wrong. Speaking of which, why did you two come here together? Could it be a date? Before Rhodes could respond, Urza's face turned red and she was speechless. You? What? When will you get married? Rhodes covered his mouth and almost sprayed coffee on her face. You're thinking too far. No, isn't it? It's just that Wakaba's wife gave us 2 hospitality coupons, Mira explained. then put her face in one hand and said with a bit of a smirk, "Ah, but it seems it can be counted as a date." Yeah. Urza continued to stutter. Mira smiled even more happily. Shy Urza is also very interesting, but it's a pity that Rhodes doesn't even blush, so it's not as fun as before. Rhodes breathed a sigh of relief. A month of experience has made him thick-skinned, or his ability to accept things has become stronger. The most important thing is, when I went out today, it seemed that I had the attitude towards a date. Now that Mira said it in a teasing tone, she couldn't be shy at all. Next, Rhodes discovered that Urza was a bit naturally stupid. When he and Mira had already talked about the next topic, Urza was still confirming with Mira whether it was a joke or not. After finally explaining it clearly to Urza, and after she finished eating her snacks, the three of them left together. "Please walk slowly and welcome to visit us next time." The waiter at the door bowed politely, but Urza suddenly stopped and said to Mira and Rhodes, "Wait for me." Rhodes asked, "What happened to her?" Mira thought for a while. "Want to pack a few cakes to take back?" "Probably." A few minutes later, Urza returned, but her clothes had been changed into the uniform of a waiter in this store. Rhodes didn't understand the situation at all. A heroic female knight entered and a soft and graceful waitress came out, transform into a living person? "Welcome, two guests. What would you like to order?" Urza bent down slightly, making a gesture of invitation, then straightened up and asked, "How do you like?" The girl in charge of greeting guests was already fascinated by Urza. "Very." Rhodes' beautiful sentence stuck in his throat, so he changed it to "very suitable for you." Mira smiled and clapped. "It's very beautiful. Why did it suddenly change like this?" "Because I thought this dress was cute. I asked the boss if he could sell it to me." Urza tugged on the collar. "Then she said it was not for sale, but as long as I worked here half a day, she could give it to me." Rhodes was a little stunned. "So you agreed?" Urza nodded matter-of-factly. "That's right. So we have to start working. I'll ask you to help bring the luggage back to the guild first, right?" "No." Rhodes' head was buzzing. "You're an S-class mage who earns around $1 million per mission, but you sold yourself just for an ordinary uniform?" Mira didn't mean to stop her at all, but was still encouraging Urza. "Come on, leave the luggage to us." After all, it was Xia who shouldered everything, not only pulling the luggage cart, but also carrying Rod and Mira. "You don't understand?" Urza's actions. Mira sat sideways, with her legs together and her skirt pressed tightly, like a mermaid. "A little bit. Is this her character? She feels a little out of line and naturally stupid." Rhodes recalled Urza's expression. She seemed to be enjoying it. Mira said, "I prefer to call it freedom and spontaneity." Urza just likes all kinds of distinctive clothes, and also likes to try interesting careers. As for the reward, it is completely beyond her scope to consider. It is better to say that as long as you will be happy if you do that, it is the biggest reward. Compared with Urza, no, not just Urza, compared with most people in the guild, Rhodes, you look too worried and tense. I don't know exactly what you have been through and what worries and pressures you are burdened with, so I am not qualified to advise you to relax like everyone else. But at least today, at least that little time in the dessert house, I hope you are happy. The same bright smile as when they first met, the same gentle words as when they first heard her, word by word, poured into Rhodes' heart like a trickle, soft and warm. Rhodes was sure that he had found the reason why he was tempted. "Thank you. I'm very happy. Every day I spend in Fairy Tale is a joy. I'm very happy today." You can read more daily new novels on fictionzone.net. Both sites share the same login details, so you don't need to sign up again. Chapter 43, Part 1. The news that Urza was working as a waitress at the dessert shop spread like wildfire in the guild. This explosive message directly led to a significant decrease in the tavern's patronage. Most of the boys who often hang out in the guild choose to join in the fun, wanting to see what Urza is like as a waiter. Most girls, too. The people spreading this message exclude Rod in the first place. "Did you do it again?" "I only told Marcus." "Wouldn't that be equivalent to telling the whole guild?" "I didn't expect that everyone is looking forward to Urza's service." Mira smiled. "Don't you want Rhodes to experience it?" "Spare me," Rhodes said. "She almost strangled me with a bandage when she was pretending to be a nurse, and she was pretending to be a waiter. Will you smash the guest's head with a tray? Or trample the guest under your feet, or something?" Mira waved her hand. "No matter what, it won't be so exaggerated. I hope everyone is okay." Rhodes prayed for his companions for a second, and then went to practice by himself while there were few people and few things to do. There are several dummies and wooden stakes placed in the corner of the guild's backyard. They also set up a shelf and hung up sandbags for boxing and kicking exercises. All the parts involving wood are kindly provided by Lucky's wood-shape magic. The reward was a simple diagram of a blood drop drawn by Rhodes. This thing should be regarded as a weapon or hidden weapon in martial arts novels, but because the hideous shape really resembles a torture instrument, Lucky likes it. I heard from her that she had already sent someone to modify the design drawings in detail and was ready to start manufacturing. Most of the time, Rhodes uses the training equipment, but occasionally other companions will be infected by Rhodes' diligence and go to practice when they have time, especially the defeated Jeter, Troy, and others. Originally, Rhodes asked Lucky to make 2 wooden dummies, but Natsu saw that Rhodes was making fun of them and insisted on giving them a try. Then only the wooden dummy remains. It doesn't matter if it's broken, but you can fight it casually. The sound of dong dong sounded from the backyard, and Rhodes became more and more comfortable with the combination of magic power and fists. Answer my call, Crimson Sharpbill. The crimson magic circle flashed past, and a large, 5 and 6 strange birds appeared in the guild's backyard. Cha, the largest bird, raised its head and made a hoarse cry. Crimson Sharpbill and Sharpbill, commonly known as Six Birds, F6, etc. It is not a powerful wild monster in the game, but when compared to reality, the Sharpbeak has good penetrating ability. In addition, they also have a way to attack from a distance, shooting feathers like flying knives. Small ones can only be shot one by one, while big ones can be shot in piles. Moreover, it wouldn't take long for the feathers to grow out after they were shot. Rhodes understood it as a skill CD and gave this move the name Feathers in the Sky. The shortcomings are that they can't fly very high. The wings of sharpbills are a bit smaller, so their flying ability is probably better than that of pheasants. The good news is that the big one can carry Rhodes for gliding or flying at low altitude, and thanks to their thick legs, their running ability is pretty good. Successful. Rhodes clenched his fists, feeling joy in his heart. It's not because he got 6 birds, but because the chant was successfully shortened. He reduced the long chant to only half a sentence plus a name, which was enough to cope with emergencies. I believe that after some time, Rhodes will be able to reach the level he pursues where he can successfully activate just by shouting a name. He felt the magic power consumption of summoning 6 birds. It was about 3 river crabs, which was not bad. Rhodes directed the sharp-beaked birds to perform some simple movements, and then summoned the 3 wolves, trying to get them to cooperate with each other and rush in and out. After that, they summoned stone beetles to try to form a formation that was both offensive and defensive. After rehearsing for a while to allow the magic power to be consumed to a level that would not affect normal actions, Rhodes returned to the tavern. The Urza incident a week ago has passed without any casualties. Fortunately, there were no casualties. However, the news that the Dark Guild Scorpion Tail was wiped out appeared in the Wizards Weekly. The council was very honest and openly admitted that it was Urza's work alone, without any intention of taking credit. Although he was slightly dissatisfied with Urza's unauthorized actions, he also praised her abilities. As expected of Urza, this was the comment of most of the companions. That guy is getting more and more terrifying. This was Gray's feeling. He even took the initiative to check whether he was wearing any clothes. Scorpion's Tail? Isn't it a regular guild? Naba's question silenced the area. It seems like it's true that Urza took action against the regular guild? No, the council is involved in this matter, so it's impossible. Marcus was very happy to explain. Scorpion Tail was recently classified as a dark guild, because in order to make money, they secretly helped some big businessmen suppress their competitors by kidnapping and coercing them, which was only exposed some time ago. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief, but their hearts immediately became anxious again. Help! Everyone in the guild, including Rhodes, heard this voice. It's so scary. Someone come and save me. The same voice sounded again. Rhodes suddenly realized that the voice did not come from outside, but sounded directly from his mind. Before he could ask questions, Mira said seriously, Warren, this is Warren's talking magic. You can directly send what you want to say to others through the air. Rhodes was not familiar with Warren. He only remembered that the man had strange side bangs and liked to be alone. Others have also heard it. It's Warren's voice. He's asking for help. Are you in danger? But didn't he go on a date with his girlfriend today? This is what Marcus learned when he talked to Warren yesterday. Where are you? Warren. Gray suddenly stood up, yelled and tried to talk to Warren. Others either yelled or asked inwardly about Warren's location, but no one received a response. Warren just kept repeating words like scary, horror, and help. Loki pushed open the guild door from the outside with a bang, ran in and asked, Does anyone know what happened? Now everyone on the street has heard Warren's cry for help. It's going to cause a panic. It's an indiscriminate request for help. Urza couldn't sit still anymore. Now that the president is away, I will take command for the time being. Everyone is ready to fight. Urza quickly assigned tasks, and some people set off immediately to prepare to maintain order and protect residents. Some people were responsible for searching for Warren's location and preparing for rescue. Generally speaking, when a magician goes out, he should be responsible for all actions and risks caused by his actions. If others help without authorization, they may be regarded as looking down on the other person and hurt the other person's self-esteem. However, if he himself asks for help because of a crisis, then as a companion, he will do whatever it takes to rescue him. At least that's what Fairy Tail does. Chapter 44, Part 1. Rhodes was assigned the task of searching for Warren's traces by Urza. Mira will stay behind, and after the truth is found out, she will be responsible for comforting nearby residents, and in the worst-case scenario, guiding civilians to evacuate. Urza gave the order, and the guild members took action quickly and spared no effort to do what they could. This is the first time Rhodes has seen the guild operating at high speed. This guild that bickers and fights every day has such strong cohesion. Answer my call, Shadow Wolf. Rhodes was infected by this atmosphere and summoned 6 wolves in one breath. In Summoner's Rift, there are 2 groups of shadow wolves, 6 in total. Urza, they have a strong sense of smell. If there is anything Warren has used, you should be able to find it quickly. If anyone needs to travel quickly, I also have swift crabs. Nabu said, I know where Warren's home is. Come with me in groups. Mira also said, there may be something left by Warren in the guild. I'll go look for it. It helped a lot. I thought I couldn't use my sense of smell to track him when Natsu wasn't here. Urza said, that's it, we split up. Okay. Rhodes separated a group of shadow wolves to follow Nabu, leaving a group with Mira to look for things in the guild. It's so high, so scary, help. The people responsible for the search took a sudden action and narrowed the search area to a relatively high place. On the one hand, Rhodes was worried about Warren's safety, but on the other hand, he was relieved that he could help. But this relief completely disappeared within a few minutes. Other companions also put down their worries and even wanted to give Warren a beating. Because I'm saved. I'm finally off that damn suspension bridge. I'll never date at such a high place again. Oops. Could it be that my talking has always been? Warren's voice stopped abruptly. There were scoldings inside and outside the guild. Warren, you be asterisk 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 D? Are you kidding us? I can't spare you. Is it Fairy Tail's magician again? What are you doing again this time? I also said it's rare for them to be quiet for a while. It's too much to pull a city-wide prank like this. All kinds of voices sounded throughout Magnolia, and the denunciations of people on the streets could be heard in the guild. Urza covered her forehead with one hand. Thanks to her majestic command of everyone just now, this was the result. Mira stopped flipping things around, and the smile returned to her face. Ah la la, it's a big deal again this time. Rhodes had mixed feelings. So, Warren went on a date with his girlfriend on the suspension bridge, and then because of fear, the magic went out of control and the whole city heard his voice? Urza nodded. Ah, that guy seems to be severely afraid of heights. This matter was so ridiculous that Rhodes couldn't believe it. Because this kind of thing affects the whole city, our guild will not be demolished by the residents, right? No. Mira waved her hand. This kind of thing is not uncommon. There is an even more exaggerated uncle in the guild. When he comes back, the whole city will be turned upside down. But I still have to apologize properly and strive for everyone's understanding. I will go find him now. Urza's eyes became sharp. Road, swift crab. Okay. Rhodes summoned the river crab. It's similar to riding a horse, using the tentacles as reins. I know. Urza jumped on the crab's back, flicked the reins, and the crab carried her out of the guild gate quickly. Rhodes thought about Urza's scary look just now. Warren won't be hacked to death by her, right? Mira said. It shouldn't be hacked to death. Does that mean he will be hacked? Rhodes found that his common language had improved again, and he could easily understand the meaning of Myra's words. Moreover, if something like this happened, even if he wasn't hacked to death by Urza, he would still be killed, right? Rhodes imagined himself crying in the heart of the city because of his fear of heights. If Taishi is dead, how can we go out in the future? Out of concern, Rhodes decided to connect to He Crab's vision and prepare to see Warren's status. He Crab's vision came into his mind, and the scenery in front of him was rapidly moving backwards. It was obviously Urza driving. He crabbed forward at full speed. A second later, Rhodes took the initiative to cut off the line of sight. The angle of view of he crab is relatively wide. Forget it if I didn't think of it just now. If I read it further, it's a bit rude. Wish yourself the best of luck, Warren. The town-wide prank incident had quite a negative impact. On the day of the incident, Urza and Mira came forward and took Warren to explain and apologize to many citizens. After the president came back, he even went to the city hall in person. However, both the mayor and the citizens were very tolerant of this matter. It's just a message in the hearts of the people in the city. It's not like it's destroying the whole city. According to the gossip spread by non-Mira, the mayor said this when he met with the president. After the citizens complained for a few days, the incident became a joke. You know, fairy tales magician the other day? The citizens had more to talk about after dinner, which also added a serious misdeed to this guild that likes to play around. Even Brother Goodman couldn't help but ask Rhodes what kind of magic was that day, and what kind of person Warren was. The matter is barely settled at this point. But since then, Warren has not appeared in the guild for quite some time. When he had no money at hand and had to take on a task, he would hide in a corner outside the union and use reading words to whisper to Mira quietly. Mira will carefully select tasks that are suitable for Warren, and then find a way to send the task list out. Well, this is what Mira told Rod. Because it was Rhodes' Shadow Wolf who was responsible for delivering the task orders. A few days ago, Urza used the fast characteristic of the Tianhe crab to catch Warren. Now the Shadow Wolf's good at sneaky and sensitive sense of smell characteristics are used to find Warren and secretly send him a task list. Originally, I wanted them to help rescue Warren, but now it's better. Rhodes shook his head slightly. No matter how it was used anyway. Since the phased goal of shortening magic chanting has made breakthrough progress, Rhodes has spent more time reading the magic encyclopedia recently. He is choosing a magic that suits his minor. Of course, to be on the safe side, you should consult the president before starting to practice to see if there is any danger. As long as most magic is practiced step by step, and there is no problem with the property, there will be no danger. This is what the president said. The so-called compatibility is easy to understand. It is probably the talent suitable for a certain kind of magic. It often determines the entry threshold and future height of a kind of magic. As for how to confirm phase nature, generally speaking, those who can awaken on their own are the most suitable. For example, when Urza was a child, she suddenly mastered magic in a moment of crisis. If you fail to awaken on your own, you can only choose the magic you are interested in and try to see if you can get started quickly. Rhodes has already selected several targets of interest. You can read more daily new novels on fictionzone.net. Chapter 44, Part 2. Both sites share the same login details, so you don't need to sign up again. Chapter 45, Part 1. When it comes to minoring in magic, the first thing Rhodes thinks of is Levy's three-dimensional text magic. Levy, who uses three-dimensional text magic, likes to study various characters, so will knowing multiple languages benefit this magic? Will the Chinese I master have good power? Just give it a try and you'll find out. Just recently, Levy also felt that there was nothing left to teach Rhodes about common sense in the world. When he mentioned that he wanted to learn three-dimensional writing, Levy immediately patted his chest and said that he would be taught, and he would try it out for a month without any charge. Getting started with magic naturally starts with the most basic words. Levy's fingertips shone with golden magic light. His wrist moved gently, and words formed in mid-air. 3D text fire. The golden magic light is in the text the moment the words were written. They turned red and turned into burning flames, dancing in the air as Levy waved his arms. Rhodes picked up a piece of broken wood in the corner of the yard and threw it in. The wood immediately ignited. But when the glyph of fire was destroyed, it became increasingly difficult for Levy to control it. After maintaining it for a while, the flames dissipated, leaving only a piece of charcoal falling to the ground and continuing to burn. 3D text water. Levy waved his hand again to write the word water, extinguishing the burning charcoal. Three-dimensional text magic is a magic that uses words written with magic to mobilize elements or other forces that are not good at mobilizing. To a certain extent, those words are temporary magic props created by us. After completing this step, you can use them as holding magic. How can you explain it this way? Rhodes didn't know what to say. He originally wanted to learn the ability system, but Levy told him that it was half a possession system. Even if it's the same kind of magic, everyone's experience is different. That's just my opinion, Levy said. Anyway, let's start with the first step, using magic to write words. Okay. Road nodded. He's here now. Let's give it a try first. Levi explained in detail how to distribute magic power and how to make the magic power release through his fingers stay briefly in midair. Rhodes listened, memorized, and followed the instructions. If he didn't understand anything, he would immediately ask. Things related to spiritual practice must not be careless. While the two were teaching harmoniously in the backyard, there were also two pairs of eyes staring at them. Jet and Troy were picking at the door frame of the guild's back hall door, one on the left and the other on the right, each with their heads peeking out. Jet said angrily, "Damn it, that guy Rhodes is so cunning. He used the excuse of learning magic to pester Levi." Troy said, "But it seems that Levi went to him first to learn writing. No matter what, if this continues, maybe we have to do something to make Levi understand our feelings." Troy thought for a while. Then, challenge Rhodes and prove that we are better than him? You've already been defeated, in front of Levi, Jet said in frustration. How many wild monsters can you defeat? Troy touched the seed packet on his body. As long as he doesn't use stone beetles, Jet reminded. Rhodes recently got a strange bird. When he waved his wings, the sky was filled with feathers like flying knives. Troy hesitated for a moment. Well, as long as he doesn't use that weird bird, Jet added. He also has a kind of wolf that can touch you behind the scenes and knock you down while you're not paying attention. Well, as long as he doesn't use that kind of wolf. Jet sighed. It's better to let Rhodes tie his hands and feet to plan for you. Troy himself felt that it was a bit excessive. What can I do? How can anyone become so strong after practicing for more than a month? There is really no other way, so we have to do that. Jet turned around and left. Hey, Jet, what do you want to do? Be prepared and come back soon. Jet used his magic foot and quickly disappeared from Troy's sight. Levi pointed at the text that Rhodes had just written and said, "The magic power is not evenly distributed here. Please control the output speed a little." Okay. Rhodes did as he was told. This word magic was slightly more skillful. Even if you want to use your strength to produce miracles, you have to have a continuous and consistent amount of vigor. Holding your breath and forcefully releasing magic power randomly will not work. After practicing for a while, Levi suggested that Rhodes take a break and review his previous mistakes before trying again. At this moment, Jeter burst into the backyard like a gust of wind and stood in front of Levi with his hands behind his back, his expression serious. Levi wondered, "Jet, what's wrong?" Jeter said seriously, "Levi, I have something important to say to you." Oh, Rhodes retreated silently, lowering his sense of presence. He felt that there was something to eat. Levi seemed to realize something and followed his words and asked, "What's the matter? So serious all of a sudden?" Jet took out a bouquet of red roses from behind, bent down and brought the flowers to Levi. "I like you. Please date me." After Jet said this sentence in one breath, he closed his eyes, held his breath, and waited for Levi's answer like fate. Levi showed a slightly surprised expression. She only hesitated for a moment before taking a step back and twisting her two little hands together behind her back instead of picking up the flowers. "I'm sorry, Jet. I don't have that kind of feeling for you. Thank you for your love." Rhodes was surprised to find that Levi, who had a weak personality, was very decisive at this time. It only took 2 seconds from the time Jet finished speaking to Levi's refusal. "Sure enough. Is that so?" Jet said with difficulty, and when he straightened up, a stiff smile already appeared on his face. "Sorry for troubling you." Jet held the bouquet in one hand instead. This can be regarded as an apology or a gift between friends. Levi still didn't reach out, just smiled and shook his head. Jet took back his hand and forced himself to smile. "That's right. This is inappropriate." Then, "I still have something to do." Jet turned around and left, leaving behind a fairly free and easy figure. Troy, who was observing secretly, was stunned by Jet's series of actions. First, he was angry that Jeter had jumped the gun. Then he anxiously waited for Levi's reply. And finally, he felt bad for Jeter, who was rejected. Of course, the discomfort was mixed with a hint of joy that I have a chance. This hint of joy made Troy feel very guilty. They had been best friends since childhood, and the most important thing to do now was to stay with Jet. "Jet, you." When Troy found the lost Jet, he found himself speechless. He can completely imagine how sad Jeter is now. At this time, everything is in vain, right? Unexpectedly, Jet actually patted Troy on the shoulder. "It doesn't matter. I have thought of this result. But you, Troy, come on. What are you talking about? If you succeed, I will also bless you," Jeter said. We are still best friends. Jet. Chapter 46, Part 1. Rhodes, who hid in the corner with a melon-eating mentality, now felt that the melon didn't taste good because Levy seemed a little uncomfortable. I guess she was probably worried that this incident would affect her friendship with Jet. After all, the three members of the Lane Engine team grew up together. Hey Rod, Levy asked in a low voice, did I speak too harshly just now? I don't know. Rhodes didn't have a childhood sweetheart, let alone a childhood sweetheart who has ever confessed to him. He could only think carefully and said, if you don't like emotional matters, it would be better to explain it clearly like you do, right? That's what I said. It was because Levy understood this truth that she refused so decisively. In the end, she didn't even touch the bouquet, not wanting any misunderstanding to arise. She sighed. I'm just worried that the Lane Engine team will be disbanded. We have always been good friends. We should think of a more euphemistic way of saying it. No matter how euphemistic it is, the meaning is the same. The longer it is delayed, the deeper the injury will be. Things have happened. No matter which is the best choice, Rhodes doesn't want to say things like, you didn't do it right, or you just didn't think about it. That would do nothing except make Levy blame himself even more. The best choice is the one you just made. Levy needs to believe this before she can feel better. After that, wait until she calms down a little, and then help advise her on what to do next, if she needs it. However, something unexpected happened to Rhodes. Just as Levy regained some energy, Troy appeared again holding a bouquet of flowers. Compared to Jet, Troy's movements were slightly stiffer, but after taking 2 deep breaths, he still mustered up the courage to say the same thing as Jet. This time it only took a second for Levy to reject Troy. Troy was more embarrassed than Jet, dropped the bouquet on the ground, and left in despair. Rhodes had to shoulder part of the blame because he had just made Levy firmly believe that it was best for them to decisively refuse. After a while, Levy turned around and tried to control his emotions. Let's continue practicing. Rhodes wanted to master magic quickly, but under such circumstances, dragging Levy to teach would be a bit. He thought for a while and said, well, I have consumed a little too much magic power today, so let's take a rest first. How about I buy you a drink? Just treat it as a thank you for your help. A few minutes later, Rod and Levy were sitting at the counter. The two of them clinked their glasses together, and just as Rod took a sip, Levy had already downed a glass, as boldly as if he was possessed by Kana. Good thing it's just regular beer. Mira noticed Levy's red-eye circles, deliberately put her hands on her hips to look angry, and asked, Rhodes, are you bullying Levy? Absolutely not. Rhodes raised his hand and said, the situation is a bit complicated, and I can't say anything. It's none of Rod's business. It's just that I don't know what to do now. Levy's drinking capacity was a little bad, and his face turned red after a glass of beer. She poured out her troubles to Mila like beans from a bamboo tube, and she was obviously drunk when she spoke. Don't worry, Levy, Mira said softly. The three of you are good friends who grew up together and are partners in the same guild. No matter what happens, this feeling will last forever. It won't be long before Jet and Troy regain their spirits. Real, of course. Then, have another drink. After drinking his second cup, Levy lay on the counter and fell asleep, occasionally murmuring in his sleep, moving his arms and kicking his legs. If this kid can drink more alcohol in the future, his wine may not be very good. Levy is wearing off-shoulder clothes, and the coat of arms on the left back shoulder is very conspicuous. Although it was summer, the ceiling fan was spinning. Rhodes wondered if he should cover Levy with something, but he had nothing on hand. Instead, Mira found a thin blanket and gently draped it on Levy. Rhodes has been caring about Levy since just now. Could it be that you also? Mira started again. No, even though Levy is cute, he's not my type. Then what type do you like? Myra's eyes were bright, and her eyes seemed to be burning with the flame of gossip. Rhodes really wanted her to have a taste of eating melon at his own home, but being impatient would ruin his big plans. Secrets make men more masculine. Rhodes altered a line from a detective anime. Confessing something like this is not a good idea for a charger. Jet and Troy just showed him. Hey, this is something only Loki can say. Mira said, has the relationship between you two gotten better? Not at all. He would run away within 5 meters of me approaching him. Now he and the people around him have to ask Lucky to take their orders for me. Rhodes was also helpless. His communication with Loki was limited to the last attempt at a discussion. After that, even if he wanted to ease the relationship, the other party would not give him a chance. Mira only knew that it was related to a female celestial spirit mage. Based on Loki's nature, She guessed that it was an emotional entanglement. He just didn't know what kind of sad experience it was that made him avoid anything related to the celestial mage. Rhodes' method of dealing with this is, if it can't be solved, don't solve it. There are some brothers who don't get along. It's normal for such a big guild to have a few people who can't play together. Out of the friendship of companions, when he has something to do, we will go to him. Lane engine formation. Levi suddenly raised his fist and shouted. Rhodes helped her put the fallen blanket back on. Is this a dream about the past? When did the three of them start to form a team? I don't know about this either. Mira thought for a moment. I remember when I first joined the guild 5 years ago. They often got together. 5 years ago. You were only 12 or 13 years old, right? Joining the guild can be understood as a means of self-reliance, and she also brought a younger brother with her. Rhodes sounded a little distressed. 13 years old, it's not too early. Natsu joined the guild a year before me. Urza was another year earlier. Gray, Kana, and Levi were even earlier. Mira looked reminiscing. We are all homeless children, and only by joining the guild can we settle down. Speaking of which, I have never asked Rod. What did you do before? I am a student, Rhodes said. I have been going to school since I was 5 years old until more than a month ago. For more than 10 years, just going to school? Mira showed a surprised expression. Seeing Rhodes nodding, she asked, were you a noble or a prince before? You can read more daily new novels on fictionzone.net. Both sites share the same login details, so you don't need to sign up again. Chapter 47, Part 1. No, our country has no nobility and no royal family. Being able to study for such a long period of time should be due to policies, order, and productivity. Of course, family support is also important. Rhodes suddenly stopped talking. Except for the few days when he first arrived here, he didn't dare to think about these things, and he didn't want to mention them. The president told Rhodes that if he goes out more in the future, he might be able to find clues to the space magic that brought him here. If he can't find it, then the guild is his home. Just like Natsu, 6 years have passed since Natsu's adoptive father Igunara disappeared. Naz is still trying to find clues about his favorite family, but at the same time, he also has a new family. Rhodes didn't know the inside story about Naz, but he thought it was different from him. I may never have the chance to go back. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a dreamlike world full of magic, and there are many scenery waiting for you to enjoy. Rhodes told himself this, and then devoted himself to work, reading, and spiritual practice. He put those things aside for the time being and worked hard to live. Mira had a hard time imagining what the country Rhodes described looked like. With a good life and order, even the children of ordinary families can go to school until adulthood. Being so privileged but without a king or nobles, is this possible? She did not continue to ask because Rhodes stopped talking when he mentioned his family. Without waiting for her to comfort him, Rhodes drank his glass of wine in one gulp, stood up and said, I'll leave it to you, Levi. I'll go practice for a while. Mira nodded and only warned. Remember not to overdraw your magic power. The days in August were very long, and when Rod came home from get off work, it was not getting dark yet. As he walked, he waved his hand to summon Worm, and rubbed the unfaithful guy hard to relieve his stress. Holyulu, Worm made a disgusted sound. It was too hot, and he wanted to go back to escape the heat. Wait a minute, have you grown up a little? Snoring. Worm looked confused. I feel like you were smaller than you are now when I first met you. We were together every day before, so I didn't notice it. Recently, I've been away from him a lot, and I realized that Worm was growing up. Don't leave in a hurry. I'll weigh you later so that I can have a comparison standard next time. Woo, Worm's pair of small horns hung down. It felt that the owner was retaliating against it, and the weighing was just an excuse. Road. 2 familiar people were waiting for Rhodes on his way home. Jet, Troy? What's wrong? Rhodes stopped. To be honest, he felt a little embarrassed when he saw these 2 people because he had witnessed the failed confession today. Troy was hesitant and speechless, but Jet was quick to speak. We are looking for you because of Levi's matter. Rhodes thought for a while. Do you want me to keep it a secret for you? Jet denied. No, it's just that the confession failed. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Actually, it would be best if it could be kept a secret. Troy beeped quietly, but unfortunately Rhodes didn't hear it clearly and was glared at by Jet. Jeter got down to business. Here's what happened. Rhodes summed it up. So you went to confess your love recklessly today because I have been close to Levi recently, which makes you feel a sense of crisis? Troy added. And it feels like every time, Levi, you look very happy. Of course I am happy. Don't these people know how happy studying is? You are overthinking it. Levi is just enjoying the joy of gaining new knowledge. She really likes things related to all kinds of words. Troy uncertain channel. Really? Rhodes said. You grew up with her? Don't you know how much she likes to study characters? Like ancient characters and so on. Jet was a little embarrassed. While she was studying those things, the two of us were either sleeping or hiding far away. Rod rubbed Worm's horn and said with certainty, I'm sure Levi doesn't have the kind of feelings for me that you are worried about, and I don't have any feelings for her either. That's not the type I like. Jet and Troy wanted to cry a little. They seemed to have done something stupid. Cry if you want. After crying, think about how to deal with your relationship. Levi clearly rejected you. Rhodes said goodbye to the two people who were frustrated in love, feeling happy in his heart. Fortunately, these two are not messy guys. Otherwise, they might have to face such bloody plots as I don't believe it. Unless you can prove it to me, or you can't get close to Levi unless you beat us. It's so easy to get along with this kind of person who speaks straightforwardly and makes things clear as soon as he says it. On the way back, Rhodes saw a watermelon stall packing up. He shamelessly carried Worm and asked the boss to help him weigh it, and then did not buy any watermelon. Grandma, why are watermelons so expensive? When I make a lot of money, I will buy 2 at a time, eat one and throw it away. The guild will give one to my companions. Rhodes silently took note of Worm's weight, bought some cookies that Worm liked, and then returned him to the howling abyss to cool down. The schedule after get-off work is still the same. Exercising, hitting the sandbag, taking a shower, doing some housework, and then sitting at the table sorting out the information in the magazine. He had finished reading the nearly 60 magazines Lucky lent him last week, and he didn't want to return them yet. I originally wanted to make a collection of newspaper clippings, but unfortunately it wasn't my own. Rhodes gritted his teeth and promised to pay it back tomorrow. What he is currently browsing is the 2 weekly magazines of this month. He bought them by himself and spent about a few beers, which is still affordable. The Magisters Guild introduced by Soshala this week is Mermaid's Heel, a guild with only female members. It is said that this guild is very popular, and many male magicians have applied to join, but all of them have been rejected. There are also some people who don't listen to dissuasion and go to the guild every day to fight. As a result, he was knocked unconscious by the members of Mermaid Heels, put on a small skirt and heavy makeup, and was tied up at the entrance of the guild for a day and a night. After that, the magicians basically reached a consensus that they should not underestimate Mermaid Heels just because they only have female members. Not to be provoked easily. The focus is on the genius mage Kagura, who is proficient in swordsmanship and gravity magic and outshines all peers in the guild, and is expected to become the backbone of the Mermaid's Heel in the future. The standard princess haircut, paired with a sword, reminded Rhodes of a woman named Mei. Looking back on the past, Rhodes thought he had passed the stage of liking paper people. He silently wrote down the information about Mermaid's Heel and Kagura, put down his notebook, and began today's meditation. Magic power +1 +1 +1. The time spent practicing is fulfilling and enjoyable. Chapter 48, Part 1. Levi's confession has not spread widely yet. Because although Mira likes to spread gossip, she still has a sense of proportion and is unwilling to hurt the feelings of the 3 people. Rhodes was still learning 3-dimensional text magic from Levi, and was also quietly paying attention to the 3 people's reactions. After all, the cause of the matter had a little bit to do with him. In the week after that, Jet and Troy didn't go to any work, but often whispered in the corner. Jet wanted to say something to Levi several times, but he was held back by Troy, who was trying to figure out how to say it without being embarrassed. Levi didn't go to see either of them during breaks, but often sat at the counter and chatted with Mira. Even his eyes often drifted in the direction of Jet and the others, worrying about how to break the embarrassing situation. Rhodes was wondering whether to speak clearly for them, but he was worried that it would make the atmosphere more awkward. However, Mira suddenly showed a distressed look while chatting with Levi, and sighed lightly. Levi naturally couldn't help but ask, "What's bothering Sister Mira?" "A little bit," Mira said calmly. "The weather has been too hot recently, and everyone has become lazy, so there are a lot of commissions backlogged here. If it is not dealt with, the guild's ability may be questioned." "Hey, is it so serious?" Levi felt a little guilty. She was one of the people who hadn't gone to work for a long time. Mira pulled out an order form from under the counter. "Yes, especially this one. The task of going to the orphanage in a neighboring town to be a tutor for the children. If no one goes there, the children will be disappointed." Levi quietly glanced at a corner and replied, "If you want to help the children with their homework, can you just find an ordinary teacher?" Mira said. Because more than half of the children wished to become wizards, The orphanage wants to invite some teachers who know magic to come there. Myra's pleading look made Levy unable to bear to pretend that he didn't understand what she meant. The task of being a teacher is very suitable for her. And then think about how often she is taken care of by Sister Mira. After hesitating for a while, Levy asked, "Well, what does the client want from the teacher?" In addition to basic requirements such as patience and attentiveness, the client hopes that the teacher can teach the children writing and history and can accompany the children in sports and games. Ideally, you can also teach them about plants and gardening skills.
Mira smiled, as if her plan had succeeded. Sister Mean-lock, stop joking.
Levy pouted. What's the difference between this kind of request and a direct roll call? It was clearly made up by her. No kidding, the client's requirements are clearly written. Mira showed the details to Levy. Just think of it as helping to deal with the backlog of tasks. It's obviously appropriate. Let me tell Jet and Troy. There is such a tailor-made mission. Levy hesitated for a while and finally nodded. Mira went to Jet and Troy to explain the situation. Rhodes saw the two people were obviously stunned for a moment and then showed happy expressions. Just when Levy looked over, the three of them looked at each other, awkwardly moving away, but couldn't help but move back. Mira thoughtfully helped them make arrangements to gather at the entrance of the guild tomorrow morning and set off. Jet and Troy immediately went home to prepare. Levy came to Rhodes with the task list. "Sorry, Rhodes, I can't practice with you tomorrow." "It doesn't matter. I've memorized the basics." "I'm sorry for taking up your time,"
Rhodes said. "Go for the mission, and other aspects as well."
"Well, then I'll go back first. Bye." Rhodes accidentally saw the time on the task list. The commission date was yesterday and the deadline was a week later. It was a commission that had been backlogged for a long time. Zhang Wuji is damn right. The more beautiful a woman is, the better she is at lying. Mira clasped her hands together and said playfully, "I'm sorry, Rhodes, I sent your tutor away." Rhodes suddenly wanted to get angry. "Yes, my heart was greatly hurt. So, is there any compensation?" Mira blinked. "What compensation do you want?" "Commit yourself to each other." "Of course this cannot be said." Rhodes thought for a while and said, "I have something to ask Mr. Cook. Can you go with me to help strengthen your courage?" "Looking for Mr. Cook?" Mira asked doubtfully. "What's the matter?" "Research plan on nutritious meal formulas to promote worm's growth," Rod said. Rhodes had thought about finding a way to develop poro delicacies for worm before, but he had no time, no cooking skills, and no motivation, so he delayed. But last time he discovered that worm might have grown up a little, which made Rhodes pick up this idea again. Maybe poro delicacies can raise a poro king? The best cook he knows now is Mr. Cook, the guild chef. I just asked such a powerful chef to help me research pet rations. I wonder if the other party would be angry. So the reason for asking Mira to go with you is for a random excuse to do something with her, or just be alone for a while. That's all for being brave. Even if Mr. Cook is really angry, the worst he can do is chase him down several streets with a kitchen knife, but he won't really be hacked to death. Rhodes' little calculations were rattling. Mira agreed without hesitation. For her, Mr. Cook was quite easy to get along with. The two walked around the counter together, walked into the aisle, and prepared to enter the kitchen through the side door. Rhodes summoned Worm. "Come and help me see if Worm has grown up a little." "Long time no see, Worm." Mira held the white dumplings in both hands, weighed them and made gestures. "It seems to have grown up." Snoring, Worm said it was very hot and wanted to go back. Rhodes said, "Be patient for a while and go back later." Mira rubbed Worm's heart-shaped belly and smiled. "I'll take you to eat something delicious." Huyulu, Worm immediately became happy. The scene looked very much like a husband and wife, one tough and one soft, coaxing an ignorant child with 2 words. Mira looked more and more gentle as she hugged Poro. "Come on." Fortunately, Mr. Cook did not take Rod's request as an offense. Instead, he was very interested in creatures like Poro. Even though Worm was so frightened, it always felt as if the uncle in front of him had just glanced at it and marked a dozen suitable locations on his body for the sword. It felt like he was about to be skinned, deboned, and thrown into a stew pot any second. Rhodes tried his best to describe the appearance of Poro delicacies in his impression and guessed several possible materials. We also listed the things Worm usually likes to eat for Mr. Cook's reference. Mr. Cook wrote them down one by one and said he would try them starting tomorrow. Chapter 48, Part 2. He felt that according to Rhodes' description, that thing could actually be eaten by others, and there might be another signature dish in the guild in the future. Chapter 49, Part 1. There was another small expense this month. Although studying gourmet food is Mr. Cook's hobby, Rhodes is always embarrassed not to pay for any materials. However, Worm also gained the power to enter and exit the kitchen at will when Mr. Cook was not busy. The prerequisite is that it cannot mess with things in the kitchen. This is Rhodes' 12th day of learning three-dimensional text magic. After the mission recommended by Mira, the atmosphere between the Lane Engine team eased, and they soon agreed to go out to work together next time. Levy came to tutor Rod again whenever he had free time, and Jeter and Troy occasionally came to watch the fun. However, the past 2 weeks of study have made Rhodes realize firsthand how important compatibility is. He could use summoning magic almost immediately, but the learning results of three-dimensional text magic were really unsatisfactory. The same fire is written, Levy releases blazing flames, and Rhodes releases probably a torch. When riding the same water, Levy releases a large amount of clean water, which can have a good impact. What Rhodes released can wash his face. Don't even think about using this level for fighting, but Rhodes plans to learn a few more words that can create light, wind, etc. At least life will be much more convenient. You won't need to light a lamp when you get up at night to go to the toilet, or you won't need to bring a fire when going out for a picnic. Congratulations. In contrast, the progress of summoning magic is as stable as ever. This time Rhodes felt that there were new wild monsters that could be summoned, so he asked the president to help look after them as before. The results confirmed one thing: it is indeed correct to be more stable. Answer my call, Demon Swamp Frog. The magic power that could summon nearly 4 river crabs was drained away by the pendant, and a huge brown toad appeared in the guild's backyard. The appearance of this toad can be described as ugly. It has a huge body that can swallow a person in one bite, and there are several purple mushrooms growing on its back. At a glance, you can tell that it is definitely poisonous. Quack! Along with the loud croaking sound of the frog, the land under the feet of the demon swamp frog was dyed purple. The next second, Rhodes felt himself being grabbed by a big hand, and his body quickly retreated. Then the president appeared in front of him, clapped one hand on the ground, and golden light emitted. The demon swamp frog and the land under its feet were surrounded by a golden magic circle, and golden spells rose from bottom to top, forming a protective shield. The demon swamp frog seemed to want to take off, but Rhodes gave it a "don't move" command to calm it down. President, what is this? It's venom. This will prevent it from spreading further. The president looked at the purple ground and said seriously, will it obey your instructions like other wild monsters? It should be okay. Rhodes could feel the connection between the demon swamp frog and himself. Raise his left front paw. The demon swamp frog raised its claws. Move 1 step to the left. The swamp frog did as he was told. Scream. Quah. It seems there is no problem. The president said, so is there a way to take back the venom? Rhodes ordered, take back the venom. No response. Rhodes thought for a while. Eliminate the venom on the ground? The demon swamp frog retreated slightly and opened its mouth, taking a mouthful of dirt. It wanted to vomit but didn't dare. It looked at Rhodes helplessly. Ah, Rhodes suddenly felt that this toad was quite cute. After receiving the president's approval, Rhodes said, spit it out, be gentle. The president looked at it and saw that the spitted soil poison seemed to have been neutralized or partially absorbed, and the toad didn't pollute any new land when it just retreated. Well, Makarov thought for a while and said, don't summon it in the guild for the time being. Okay. Rhodes nodded and waved the demon swamp frog back to Summoner's Canyon. Makarov was very pleased. It was great that Rhodes was a stable child. President, what should I do with this land? I'm going to find poor Lyusika's help to think of a way. If I can make an antidote, I'll take some with you, just in case. In fact, the easiest way is to scrape the ground and bury it deeply. But for the sake of long-term considerations, Rhodes cannot be prevented from summoning it forever. President, can you take me to visit Ms. Lyusika? I haven't thanked you properly for what happened before. When she first woke up, she couldn't communicate. After learning the common language, the old lady went home long ago, and she never came to the guild again. Rhodes did ask Mira for the address of that lady, but was told that Lady Lyusika didn't like to be disturbed. If she didn't have any business and went there rashly, she might beat her out with a broom. Preparing the antidote should be considered business, right? You might as well go together. She might even want to see your demon swamp frog. Makarov waved his hand. His body flashed with light, and his casual clothes were changed into formal clothes. Rhodes had to admit that he was impressed by the old man's handsomeness. President, this dress-up magic is so handsome. Hee hee. The president smiled like an old child. How about it? Do you want to learn? Yes. I must learn one when I have time. Dressing up and transforming is a magical girl thing. Oh no, it's a magician's romance. Makarov was very pleased that this child finally had something to pursue other than becoming stronger. He took a glass to collect some venom-contaminated soil, used magic to protect it, and said, "Let's go." This was the first time I walked on the street with the president. If the time he carried me back didn't count. Are you still used to being in the guild? Fortunately, everyone is a very good person. They take good care of me and teach me a lot. Rhodes ignored the two rude S-class magicians, and everything was fine so far. As soon as Makarov smiled, he heard Rhodes continue. Apart from the fact that it is noisy at times, there are unknown objects flying past your ears, and there are often people breaking things that are difficult to clean up. There is nothing to complain about. Makarov covered his chest, feeling a little worried. If you want to learn common language, follow Mira or Levi. Don't learn Urza's way of speaking. Urza is just like this, talking about everyone's shortcomings, and then saying, "I don't want to talk about you today." "Ah, Guild Master, I was just joking, don't worry." Rhodes was afraid of making the old man angry, so he hurriedly added, "It would be nice to have more excitement in the guild." He tried to change the subject. "By the way, President, Ms. Poryusica lives in the eastern forest, right? Do you want to take the river crab?" Makarov looked at the streets with people coming and going. "Let's wait until we leave the city. Don't cause trouble to everyone." "Oh, wait for me. I want to buy something." Rod ran to the fruit stand and came back a few minutes later with a bag full of apples and a bag full of peaches. It's not good to go empty-handed for the first time. Makarov smiled and said nothing. "This is where I found you." The two entered the forest on a river crab and walked a certain distance. Makarov pointed to an open space. Rhodes didn't have much impression of this place. Chapter 49, Part 2. He thought everything in the forest looked the same. Even if I hadn't encountered that strange beast, I would have gotten lost and fainted from hunger. Here. Chapter 50, Part 1. Originally there were some messy footprints around here, but it rained several times in the past few days, and the specific shapes are no longer easy to identify. President, you said earlier that you were investigating the beast's rampage. Is there any result? Not at all. There has been no trace since that time. Makarov looked at Rhodes. But now I have a little guess. Well, me too. Rhodes said in a low voice, feeling guilty. If it was really caused by my magic going berserk, how much compensation would I have to pay? Seeing Rhodes' worried look, the president smiled and said, "There is no need for compensation at all, because this area is an unclaimed land, and we cannot go to the king to pay a fine for such a trivial matter." Rhodes breathed a sigh of relief and almost faced a greater economic crisis. After walking some distance deeper into the forest, the two officially arrived at Poryusica's residence, a treehouse. Rhodes looked up at the red apples hanging on the trees around him, then looked down at the bag of apples he was holding in his left hand, and suddenly felt that he was a little redundant. "President?" Rhodes gave an ugly smile. "Why didn't you remind me? Ha ha ha. It turns out that you can also show such an expression. It's so funny." Makarov laughed out loud, like an old naughty boy. After he had laughed enough, he said, "It doesn't matter what the gift looks like, as long as it comes from your heart. It's so noisy." The door of the treehouse was opened roughly. "I can hear your annoying laughter from 100 meters away. Makarov, can't you be quiet?" Makarov greeted with a smile. "What's wrong with being lively once in a while? It's quite deserted to live here alone, isn't it?" Poryusica noticed Rhodes. "Your injuries should have been healed by now, right?" Rhodes quickly said, "Yes, because I heard that you like to be quiet. I have never dared to disturb you. Thank you for your help and care." Huh. Poryusica was surprised that Rhodes spoke so fluently in common language, but she didn't ask in detail and only said, "Now that you know, go back quickly." "I said I hate humans. Don't be so heartless. This kid asked me to bring him here because he wanted to thank you," Makarov said. "Well, I even brought you a meeting gift." Poryusica saw the red apple at a glance and glared at Makarov. "Humph, the children adopted by fools are also fools." After speaking, she turned around and entered the house, but didn't close the door. Rhodes was a little embarrassed by what she said, but Makarov knew that what she was humming was not Rhodes, but his boring behavior of entertaining children even though he knew there were apple trees here. "Don't worry, that's how she talks." Makarov got used to Poryusica's way of expression. "Let's go. Just invite us in without closing the door." "Sundara? No, that's too rude." Rhodes condemned his behavior of slandering his benefactor without authorization and followed the president into the treehouse. The space in the treehouse is not large, and the furnishings are also very simple. There is almost no place to stay after entering. The ground was filled with flower pots filled with herbs and bottles containing various potions. The furnishings in the room only include a bed, a desk, bookshelves, and cabinets taken out from the wall, and the stool only has a wooden pier. Rhodes looked left and right, not knowing where to put the things in his hands. Poorly Yusuke looked at the bottle in Makarov's hand. "Are you here for the thing in your hand?" Makarov nodded. "Yes, here is some soil stained with poison. I want you to see if there is a way to solve it." Poorly Yusuke immediately asked, "Has anyone in the guild been poisoned?" "No, I'm just preparing for a rainy day." Makarov explained the cause of the incident, and at the end he praised Rhodes. "This kid is very stable." Humph. Another idiot who only knows how to pursue power. Polyusica took out a petri dish with a look of disgust, put a little soil in it, and dripped one kind of medicine into it. Rhodes didn't care about Polyusica's attitude. This old lady probably said such things because she had experienced something. For example, the companion pursues power too much and ends up hurting himself. After a series of professional tests, Polyusica confirmed the role of this toxin. When exposed to toxoid, it will quickly penetrate into the panel. There will be a stinging sensation initially, followed by paralysis, and movement will become sluggish. If the poisoning lasts for a long time, the toxin will destroy the function of internal organs, and in severe cases, it may lead to death. Low temperature can reduce the spreading speed. After high-temperature baking, the toxicity will decrease to a certain extent, and the effect of inhaling a small amount of the volatilized gas is not obvious. After detailed inspection, Poorly Yusuke went outside and found a place to ask Rhodes to release the demon marsh frog. She needs to collect some more venom samples, samples of the oral secretions of the demon swamp frog, and study the mushrooms on its back. Get the antidote in a few days, but don't abuse this monster until then. Yes, thank you. You don't need to come. Makarov is asking for trouble. Let him do it himself. Oh, okay. Rhodes originally wanted to say that he was the one who caused the trouble, but after carefully studying this sentence, he felt that something was wrong. Trouble may refer to him. So the president is the one causing trouble? There seems to be no way to refute it. On the way back, Rhodes looked sad. Makarov asked, "Do you care about what Polyusica said?" "No, Ms. Polyusica. How should I put it? Although she has been complaining, the things you asked her to do were not perfunctory at all. He should be a nice guy with a sharp mouth but a soft heart." Rhodes shook his head. "I'm worried about other things. It seems that I've overspent on my living expenses this month. The money to buy meet and greet gifts, the ingredients for research and development of Poro cuisine, some clothes bought some time ago, and a few pieces of fitness equipment. The money in my pocket always slips through my fingers unknowingly, and there are still nearly 2 weeks until the salary is paid. Before time travel, it would have been solved as long as he skipped breakfast every day, but that doesn't work now. Skipping breakfast will definitely affect training. It's about time you try to accept commissions, right?" Makarov said helplessly. "If you continue like this, you will become the second Nabu." Nabu was actually more determined than Rod because he refused to be a waiter. "Actually, I want to give it a try, but the hourly wages for commissions in the city may not be as good as those in the guild tavern." Commissions outside the city. Rhodes looked confused. "I always feel that I am not strong enough, and it is not safe to go out like this. It's good to be cautious, but now at least half of the people in the guild are no longer your opponents." The president sighed. "Give yourself more confidence. You are strong. Magic comes from the power of the heart. If you don't even believe in yourself, the magic will become weak." Rhodes was shocked. "So even if I keep practicing hard, there is a chance that I will become weak after I go out? Is this the point?" Makarov couldn't help yelling at Rhodes. "Go back to Mira and help you choose a suitable mission." Chapter 50, Part 2. Makarov suspected that Rhodes might have suffered sequelae after being attacked by a ferocious beast. It was necessary to let him go out for a walk to develop his confidence and add some common sense from outside books. Oh, Rhodes nodded reluctantly and thought about it rationally. There was no need for the president to lie to him, and there was no reason to cheat him. Maybe it's time to go out for a walk? To be more prudent, Mira must choose a safe mission, and it's best to form a team with others.
Thanks for watching. You can find the next videos in the playlist linked in the info card, directly on my channel, or right here on the screen. And as always, if you have any feedback, feel free to share it in the comments too.